Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
Camille began to twist her head in front of the mirror, trying to see her hairstyle. The hairdresser almost pulled an extra strand of hair away from her and told her not to do it again. So threateningly she said, "Sit up straight, or you'll end up bald. Miranda, I need to see what's going on. When I'm done, you can look at it then." Miranda was Camille's own sister, so she treated her like that. There were rarely any misunderstandings between them, and all disputes were settled by compromise. However, as big sister, the difference was 3 years. Miranda sometimes had a commanding manner, and she seemed to like it a lot. "And if I don't like it," Camille pleaded. "It's all right, we'll fix it." Miranda replied with humor, "This is the 3rd time you've come to see me this month. Are you not satisfied with your own appearance? I can't decide on an image. Honestly, as soon as I plunged into business, I want everything at once. And there are so many worries that I can barely keep up." "Oh, come on. Don't be so smug. It's only a small cafe, and there's not enough customers to get tired. If you can't keep up, ask your son and daughter-in-law to help you." "You're wrong about the customers. Some days there are no vacancies," Camille corrected her. "As for William and his fiancée, I'd rather invite strangers. My son didn't take my advice. Now he'll have to make his own way." "You shouldn't do that, sister. He won't forgive you." I shook my head. "Miranda, mark my word, you'll have to ask him for help. Only it won't be too late. I can handle it myself." With a frown furrowing her brow, Camille replied, "And get your hair done. I have to get back to the cafe." Miranda continued, her sister, but at the same time, she was slightly offended by her attitude towards her own son. William was considered the most promising assistant in the business. He had a degree in economics, but at the moment he was investing his knowledge in the development of another firm, and he could have worked at his mother's cafe to make it even more profitable. But no, Camille didn't want to see her sister-in-law Lisa as a rival, especially since they had different characters and views on life. Not only that, her sister-in-law initially seemed to her a wiretapped and uneducated girl. She had a wrong opinion that they were not a couple and that they were different. Camille had too high an opinion of herself. Despite the fact that she had nothing to do with powerful people, the cafe didn't give her any preferential treatment, but she told everyone she knew that she ran a serious business. Of course, they tried not to argue with her and just nodded their heads. But behind her back, they would say things that would make your hair stand on end. It is possible that Camille knew about it, but did not pay attention. She believed that all means are good for achieving the goals, and if necessary, it is possible to go over the heads. Well, now it was all set. Miranda finished and showed the result of her work. "What's not bad? I would even say stylish." Camille replied with a bow of her lips, satisfied. "I tried. So you owe me a bonus." "All right, I'll tip you." "Well, thank you, and you're welcome." "What was that about?" "Your hair on your head." "You mean your hair?" Miranda waved her hand. "Oh, I see. Humor in all its glory." Camille nodded. "Then hold on, the Joker deserves it." She opened her purse and took out a $3,000 bill and handed it to Miranda. "You took it carefully and tucked it into your apron pocket. Thank you for such a generous tip." "Oh, come on. It's not like we're strangers, and I have something to pay with, especially since you got your hair done. I just made myself look like a real businesswoman. And now no one can say you're just a housewife." "They're right to a certain extent," Camille shrugged. "I spend most of my time at home in cafes and come back every other day, and then only for important issues and business meetings. But that's not the point. The main thing is that you like it. And think about your son. He's just starting his family life. He needs your support. We'll see. I can't promise anything. But by the way, I've done everything on my own, and nobody gave me anything for free. I had to literally grind my teeth to find my own piece of happiness." "Did you do the same with the cafe?" Miranda asked slyly. "I don't know what you mean." Camille shook her head. She pretended that she didn't get the meaning of the question. And about the money you used to open it. And it's not just a gift of fate, but a serious investment. Except if it doesn't work out, you know what's gonna happen. Everything will be fine. I'm sure of it. And there's no need to jump to conclusions. My cafe is just gaining momentum, and soon you'll see a real surge in traffic. People will be coming in from all over the neighborhood. Well then, I wish you success. Miranda hugged her sister and on full automatic fixed her hair. The bee had gotten a little confused. I'm sorry I got a little emotional with you. It's okay, I'm used to it. Camille waved her hand. You've always been big and fit, not like I'm skinny and short. You took after your mom and I took after my dad. And that's something to be proud of. You're right. They gave us a life and helped us make up our minds. Thanks again for the haircut. I'll stop by if I have time. Okay, maybe Saturday. Miranda sighed and shook her head as she looked at her sister. Apparently, she didn't like Camille's attitude toward life's priorities, and above all, her negative reaction to her own son, who had done nothing wrong, except that he had gotten together with a girl without listening to her advice. However, William was 25 years old, and he had every right to control his own destiny. After he started living with Lisa, he never asked her for money, all because he did not want to humiliate himself, knowing his mother's temper. Besides, he didn't want to look like a worthless man in her eyes. But what's interesting is that Lisa didn't reproach him for their humble existence. She herself worked at the market, traded things, and also earned in the general family budget. However, William was not in a hurry, and with the registration of relations, agreeing to a civil marriage. Between them, initially formed trust and mutual understanding, and Lisa calmly treated that as something William said, "We will have to live like this for 6 months or a year to save up for the wedding." And then he also made it clear that he would not go to his mother to beg for money. It's not to say he was proud. It's just that there was a precedent when he had to overstep his own principles. This incident happened right after graduation. William urgently needed money, and there were no other options but his mother at that moment. But after her answer, he lost the desire to turn to her for help for the rest of his life. She unashamedly said, "Son, you are an adult now, so solve your own problems and don't come to me for a handout." It sounded rude and hurtful. William didn't expect such a response. It was like he'd been hit with ice water. It turned out that he did not turn to his mother for help, but came to beg. And this is despite the fact that at that time she did not yet have a cafe, and she worked as an ordinary accountant at the factory. However, already at that time, Camille began to think of herself as a high-flying man, and did not pay attention to what they thought relatives and acquaintances. She had no remorse for her mistakes and missteps. On the contrary, she put them in the rank of gaining invaluable experience, and braved the fact that everything has its time, and soon everything will change for the better. But it took time, and years, for the business to become a lifelong endeavor. It is likely that Camille was aware of this, but did not accept it as a settled reality, and moved forward according to some specific plan of her own. At the same time, the problems that came her way made her more and more nervous, and made her look back. And Camille began to notice that it was not so easy to manage the business. However, she could not admit it to her closest circle, and above all to her own sister, because Miranda was on good terms with William. On the one hand, it was a vicious circle, which she created herself. On the other hand, there was an opportunity to get out of the trap. The second option promised prospects for development and growth. But for that she had to agree to Miranda's proposal. Her sister had hinted that William could use her help. What she didn't say was how best to do it. Given the way things were between Camille and her son, it was hard to imagine them reconciling. Besides, he didn't live alone, and that meant that she would have to take her daughter-in-law on bail and share the family life with her, despite their differences and divergences. Camille could not yet decide on this step, because in this case would have to come down from heaven and do what her son did when he asked her for money to overstep his own principles. After weighing the pros and cons, she came to the conclusion that she could do without his help. She even said out loud, "It doesn't hurt to need someone else's handouts." And this meant that she categorically denied any interference in her business, did not want to share it with anyone, much less show the real state of affairs. And if her son found out, he would have a reason to ridicule her, and in her opinion, the rest of the chain would get the information. In general, Camille was so intimidated by herself that she didn't even want to hear about any help. She was constantly seeing the snide faces of her relatives, and she was not going to let them pounce on her like a pack of hungry hyenas. She was pulling her weight with all her might, refusing to accept the harsh reality. When Camille arrived home, the first thing she did was to take a shower and wash off the rest of the day, except for the hair salon. She also visited the cafe and solved some organizational issues. The manager showed the reports for the week, and in general they were more or less optimistic, not to say that the place was making a fabulous profit, but so far it seemed to be able to stay afloat. I prepared a light dinner. Camille turned on, relaxing her music, and sat down massage chair. It was set to the right program, and after a few minutes, she felt an inexpressible sensation. Euphoria. Such an impression as if she was in the tender hands of a real masseur, and he carefully, with extreme precision, relieved the tension all over her body. This attitude to relaxation suggests that Camille loved herself more than anyone else. At the same time, selfishness partly offset by a cordiality to those who were on good terms with her, well, or didn't try to put sticks in her wheels, and generally showed proper respect, even if one wanted to make remarks. Criticism hurt her ego, and Camille could lose her temper, regardless of personalities. True quickly calmed down, realizing that this is not the way out. To some extent, she retained her common sense, and she did not allow herself too sharp steps. Restraint in her emotions sometimes saved her from the most disastrous consequences. What happened the next day, however, unleashed a wave of indescribable anger. Waking up at 10 o'clock, Camille planned to go out of town to her best friend. Miranda Long invited her, but they still could not meet. Now she had the opportunity to visit and talk about buying a plot of land. In her mind, she wanted to build a cottage and grow flowers there, so that she could invite her friends and acquaintances and brag about the blooming garden. But the trip had to be canceled because of an urgent call from the manager. Stephen was gasping for air as he spoke into the phone. "Camille, this is just nonsense. We didn't realize it ourselves. He came in and gave us a hard time, and he said we were gonna be in big trouble. Yeah, like they explained what happened in the exam." She gave the manager a hard time. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm worried and anxious. The thing is, we got a visit from the SS, and they found some irregularities. If we don't fix them by tomorrow, they'll close the cafe." "What did you find?" "Stephen, open alcohol in the kitchen, ventilation problems, poor service in the lounge, and a few not washing their plates." The manager replied with a tremor in his voice, "But Emily and the waiters have nothing to do with it. They do their job properly. I have no complaints about them." Camille muttered angrily, "But Rick will have to be dealt with severely. I've seen him leave bottles open by the stove. I wouldn't be surprised if he's drinking them too. So what do we do now? We've got to get this fixed by tomorrow, or we'll have to close the cafe. And I'll figure something out. In the meantime, you clean up where I'm not needed, and don't let anyone slack off, or I won't see you, my staff, and I'll hire another team. All I have to do is snap my fingers. Yeah, I got it. You got it." The manager's voice was shaking, and it spoke of how he had become in the face of her threats. At the same time, the confusion from the first minutes of the conversation suggested to Camille that he was barely coping with the duties assigned to him, and he was bound to fail at some point. But what to do? She didn't know yet. However, certain thoughts were in her head, and the main one was to invite her son to help her. But before doing so, Camille intended to solve the problems herself and not to waste time. She called the inspectorate. The director of the organization answered and hinted at money. All that remained was to collect the necessary amount of money, hand it over to the right person, and that was the end of it. However, this option did not suit her, and all because she was afraid of the continuation of extortion. In other words, she would have to give a hand now, and then she would have to pay back all the time. But time was running out, and no one was going to forgive them for their violations. Not only that, but more serious problems could arise. Camille had already imagined what it would be, but there was nowhere to go, and she began to look in her notebook for her son's phone number. There hadn't been any calls lately, so it wasn't saved in the outgoing calls. But tears came to her eyes when she saw the signature, Sanulia. No matter what you say, but her heart felt her own daughter. And no matter what was going on between them at the moment, there was still a response, holding a pause, as if it was the riskiest move for her. Camille dialed William's number. 3 beeps sounded before he answered. "Hello, I'm listening." "Hello, son. How are you doing?" "Hi, Mom. I'm fine. And if you mean I'm not starving and going around the world with my hand out, you don't have to worry, do you? We have everything we need to live." "I wasn't going to talk about that," Camille replied, and with barely restrained emotion, "I just wanted to know how you were doing. I don't need much, just a piece of your voice." "You heard my answer," William said unhappily. "Something else? Or can we stop talking?" "Wait, I have something to tell you. Just don't interrupt and take it seriously. I don't want you to feel like your mother was a helpless person. Are you in some kind of trouble? That's where you should have started. And don't think about how I'm gonna react, despite our differences. You're my mother, and nothing's changed lately." "That's good to hear, son," Camille replied, almost crying. "I thought you'd forgotten we were related." "No, Mom. But unlike you, I didn't put up barriers. And if you've called to ask for something, you can count on me. The thing is, William, my cafe needs a competent manager, and I'd like you to take the job. But if memory serves, you have a Stephen there. And he seems to be doing okay." "Exactly. It's like a problem shows up when you weren't expecting it." She interrupted her son. "Sometimes I think the staff create them on purpose. I don't think so. Although I don't rule out that some of them are negligent in their duties. That's not surprising. It's not like you're there that often. Well, they're feeling the pinch. I knew you'd say that. I never doubted your insight. So, what are you gonna do? Take over?" "I don't know. It's kind of sudden. Especially since I have a job." Stephen hesitated. "I need to think about it. Besides, you know I'm not the only one who makes decisions. Yeah, well, Lisa has a say in your family too. And you can't quit your job." Camille replied with a heavy sigh. "But on the other hand, one head is better than two. You can combine them for now. And at the same time to think up such a plan of action that all enemies and competitors would be jealous. We don't need enemies, of course, but we can compete with our rivals. Besides, healthy excitement only inspires great achievements and gives confidence that you are on the right path. And I can take that as a yes. I think it is. But I'm not quitting just yet. So I'm sorry, son. The problems need to be solved today. And first and foremost, discipline. You said yourself that they're sensing weakness. You should have noticed it yourself. You own the cafe. Let's not talk about that now," Camille said irritably. "This is about your professional qualities, and it's important to me that you clean up the cafe. All right, it's a deal. I'll be there in an hour." Having finished talking to him, she put the phone away on the nightstand and made a thoughtful face in her head. Immediately there was a fleeting thought, and was it right that I called my son to help? He would think that I had failed. My inner gut began to tell me that I should act, relying on my own strength. But the mother's heart was drawn to the native blood of the kidney, and having made certain conclusions, Camille still chose the second option. With William, it would be possible to turn mountains. If she had done it earlier, then she would not have faced the problems that fell like from the horn of plenty. At the same time, Camille gained invaluable experience, and at certain moments it helped her a lot. She had even gotten away with it when there seemed to be no chance of escape. But now there were insurmountable difficulties, primarily because he had lost control over his subordinates, and they were increasingly working overtime. But she had no good reason to fire any of them. Or rather, she didn't have the courage to say goodbye. Camille decided to entrust this mission to her son to ward off the storm clouds. Again, it was not without mercantile interests, although, if one judged it that way, she depended on him too. At the moment, the son was the only free salvation, and it's a good thing he agreed. He could have remembered all her antics. Camille, as imagined their meeting after a painful parting, and then a little bit even shivers ran down his spine, as if cold from somewhere it was pulled. Dialing the CES director's number again, she proudly told him, "We will fix everything. You'll see it tomorrow." Good. Cell phone rings. Glad to hear it. But if anything, the cafe will have to close. The man replied sneeringly, "Don't even think about it. I won't give you that opportunity." Camille felt relieved that she had partially solved her problems. All she had to do was wait for her son, who promised to correct her mistakes. He did not reproach her for taking on an impossible burden, but at the same time he made his position clear and made it clear that it was better to work together. She did not even argue with this, because she had experienced all the vicissitudes and intricacies of business, and if at first everything seemed to be a simple hobby, it soon turned into a heavy routine, and it required more and more dedication from her. And Camille couldn't get the last juices out of herself. And as a result, both the management system and the quality of service suffered. The SES representative quickly discovered this and demanded that it be fixed, but left a window of opportunity for a financial settlement, and it was up to her to take advantage of it. For now, Camille opted for her son's help in the hope that he would spare her the unnecessary expense. An hour later, as promised, William arrived, but not alone. Lisa arrived with him. She looked around fearfully, as if she were afraid of meeting monsters. In fact, she had a state of surprise. After all, it had been so long since Camille had invited them over to her place, playing the part of the cheap and grand business lady. And now this event, of course, it couldn't help but come as a shock. "Well, here we are." "Mom, right from the doorstep," said William, and put his arm around her shoulders. "As you can see, I'm not offended by you, and we can discuss everything in peace." "Thank you, son. I didn't expect to hear any other words from you." She nodded back at him. "Hello, Camille." Lisa greeted her quietly. "Hello, sister-in-law. Why are you so weak?" "I didn't eat enough porridge this morning." "No, I just had some." "Oh, you probably weren't planning on coming to see me." "But to be honest, I wasn't, because you haven't called us in a while." "Mom, you called me looking for a reason to fight." William frowned. "No, son, not even a thought." I shook my head. "I was just checking just in case you really did have other plans, and you had to change them because of me. That's okay. We'll do it some other time, especially since your problems are more important. And I wanted to get straight to the point so I could get them done by tomorrow." "Maybe I'll have tea and cake then," Camille suggested. "I'd like that. I like desserts. What about you?" "Lisa?" "I'd love to. I like cake." "Well, that's fine. Come on then, sister-in-law. Help me set the table." "What am I supposed to do?" William looked at them in surprise. "Oh, I almost forgot. Here's Stephen's number. Call him and clear up the situation. Anyway, plug in. Time's running out. I do not want to blush tomorrow in front of the SES. Besides, I told them, or rather, the director, that we'll fix it. I'll see what I can do." His mother and Lisa went to the kitchen, and he started calling Stephen. He answered only after the second ring and didn't immediately realize who was bothering him. "Sorry, I didn't recognize William. How long will you live?" "Thank you. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how to fix all the problems. After all, they didn't arise on a single day, and it's obvious that the staff has been unraveling the situation for a long time. And you didn't follow up on it properly. But you know I'm gonna talk about this right now, so get pen and paper ready. Meanwhile, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were busy preparing for the tea party. Besides the cake, which was cut into small pieces, they decided to make sandwiches on the table, and immediately smoked sausage appeared, followed by cheese, tomatoes, cucumbers, and salad leaves. And it was all topped off with a prefabricated arrangement of waffles and candy in the crystal vase. What William was talking to Stephen about, they weren't even listening. They didn't seem at all interested in how events were unfolding there, and one could assume that all their attention was focused on their own communication. In other words, Camille and Bulega were trying to establish contact, and they succeeded quite well because they did everything smoothly and without disagreements. In any case, no one teased or rushed them. Camille even complimented Lisa on the quality of the slicing. She liked the way her sister-in-law put the cheese and sausage on the plates, and also noted the interesting combination of sandwich layers. Overall, the meeting was a success after a long standoff. Although, to be honest, Camille was worried that they would not find common ground and fight in the first minute. But that didn't happen, and the storm clouds had bypassed them. Looking at the treat, she smiled contentedly and said, "I definitely like our tandem. What do you think?" "I think so too." "I agree," Lisa nodded. "All the more so because you were kind to me and didn't throw me out on my doorstep." "Well, how could I do that?" Camille shrugged. "Invite you in and then walk out the door." "No, I've never stooped so low as to go to all that trouble. What happened with the cafe? It's just little things, but they need to be dealt with. I hope William can do that so I don't have to close the place down." "Even so." "But why?" It was obvious that Lisa did not ask questions out of idle curiosity. She was really worried about the fate of the cafe, even though she had nothing to do with it. "The trouble is that I've gotten too caught up in my image," Camille replied sadly with a heavy sigh. "I visited beauty salons, fashion boutiques, but I forgot about the main thing. Cafe requires attention, like any other business. And if you let everything go, then you can say goodbye to wives and money. You're right, you need control everywhere. It's hard to imagine stability without it. I trade things at the market, and it seems to be nothing complicated, but if I get distracted, I lose part of the profit or goods." I heard William's voice, and that's where the conversation had to stop. Anyway, he and I solved the main problems, but I still have to go there now. I want to make sure that my words have reached their intended recipients, and if you'll let me, I'll assign individual tasks to the staff. "Well done. You can see that there is a commercial spirit," she praised her son. "And who do you plan to punish?" "Well, to think with their heads and work on their conscience. I don't know yet. I'll come and with Stephen we'll decide what to do," shrugged William. "By the way, what should I tell him about his current position? You're the manager now, and if you think he'll be useful, keep him as an assistant." "I will." "That's exactly what I was gonna ask you. The kid's not bad. From the way we talked to him just now," he answered clearly. "He was nervous though, but it's no big deal. And as for those who caused the trouble, I'll find a way to talk some sense into them without negative consequences. Everything is in your hands." "Go ahead," Camille nodded. "You have broad authority. Think of it as acting on my behalf. It's a deal. Then I'll go right away." "What about the cake and sandwiches?" Lisa asked in surprise. "I'll come back and eat. If you leave some for me." William smiled and kissed her on the cheek. "And mother?" "Yes, I almost forgot. You can go now. Lisa and I will take care of her." Looking at his watch, William furrowed his brow. What were you thinking about for a minute? Then waved his hand at them and left the apartment. At that moment, he had only one thought: to solve his mother's problems and get home as soon as possible. Though she didn't persecute, he still felt out of place, burdensome and onerous. It seemed to him an invitation, all the more so at the most unexpected moment. William couldn't believe his mother was doing all this unselfishly, well or heartily wishing to make up with him. He knew her character perfectly well, and more than once was convinced that it could not be corrected. His mother would rather make strangers relatives than condescend to him. And this was no exaggeration, for she had never been able to admit her own mistakes. As soon as she had a problem, she immediately turned to her son for help, but not even a word about the fact that she acted very meanly towards him and his fiancée. It was not in her speeches, only restrained emotion and pleas for help. You see, business was starting to fall apart, and something had to be done. William agreed to help without any preconditions. He only hinted that he would solve her problems in his own way. Otherwise, as far as personal relationships were concerned, he remained modestly silent, and that only earned him points with his mother. In fact, he did not say sorry, but "You spit in my soul, and I will not save you." No such words came out of his mouth. On the contrary, William felt her distress and came without delay to take the situation into his own hands. But he brought Lisa as a symbol of the family relationship. It was necessary to let the mother realize that they are with her as a whole, love each other, and are not going to part. In addition, the wedding was in the plans as a finishing touch, as well as the beginning of a new path in their lives. And naturally, it would not do without children. In any case, their birth William did not reject, only suggested Lisa, first to get a little stronger and on her feet. It was necessary to prepare carefully for the replenishment, so as not to meet him with empty pockets. After he left for the cafe, Camille, in her right as hostess, placed the tea into mugs and set out a stick of cream. It smells so good. It's like it just came from the plantation. I always buy only the highest grade, and in a familiar tea shop, she boasted to her daughter-in-law, "We don't drink the expensive kind, but it's good too." Lisa shrugged. "That's okay. You've got it all ahead of you, and I didn't come to it right away either." On the other hand, it's all about brains. If they work properly, you can achieve a lot. Not everybody can do what you do, even with a bright head. I think it's important to have support in the beginning. And if you don't have that, it's hard to make your way in life on your own. Nonsense. And I did. And you and William will do great. But you're gonna have to work on yourself. What do you mean? Lisa's eyebrows furrowed, sensing a catch. Yeah, relax. I just wanted to tell you not to stand in one place, she clarified. Her argument: you need to develop, to gain knowledge, a new profession, finally. Well, I'm not sitting at home working. That's understandable. But the market is not the end of the world. You're not going to spend your life selling things. I guess not. But I haven't thought about it yet. Lisa shrugged. You should. Otherwise, you'll regret the opportunities you missed. Taking a sip from her mug, she added, and the best thing is to change your line of work. I don't have a college degree, so a job in a prestigious company is out of the question. Why are you so down in the dumps? You can start small, like waitressing. Are you by any chance referring to your cafe? Lisa asked with a smile. To be honest, yes, especially since William has already agreed. Now he's just getting up to speed and becoming a full-fledged manager. I want to expand, and with the state of affairs as they are at the moment, it's hard to dream of anything. Maybe I can do it, but it takes practice. I've never worked in the service industry. There's a first time for everything, even when we're first born. Don't think that I'm offering you a waitress job on purpose, and you'll think that your mother-in-law is sending you to the bottom. You didn't start out on the top either, Lisa reminded her. So why should I take offense to that? Every job is honored. It doesn't matter what you're doing at the moment. If you're honest and conscientious, there's no talking. Just respect and gratitude for that you don't have to worry about. I don't hurt anyone with money, Camille smiled. All my employees are paid on time, and none of them has ever complained. I'll have to have a word with William. I think he'll be pleased to know that his wife has decided to work with him. So you're saying he's definitely going to be the manager? I'm pretty sure of it. Camille declared proudly. There's not much money to be made at the firm where he works now, and I have the opportunity to move up. Where else? Lisa was surprised. For example, as a cafe director or even owner. Time will tell. It all depends on him. Will you be without your business? No, everything will stay with me. I'll just open a new outlet and manage it there. Because I've agreed to do it as a combination for now. Stephen will stay on as an assistant. See if we can get the cafe out of the doldrums. You have such grandiose plans. It's heartwarming. Lisa smiled, and her eyes sparkled. So I didn't invite you here for nothing. The result is obvious. Camille nodded, and they even clapped their hands. William won't be able to quit right away because he has to test his own strength. But you can start waitressing tomorrow. Thank you, Camille. That's so kind of you. I'm speechless. How can I express my gratitude? Do a good job, and that will be enough. Oh, and love my son without cheating or lying. I wasn't going to do that. With a kind of resentment in her voice, Lisa replied and pouted her lips. Well, don't be offended. I didn't say it out of spite. Camille ran her hand over her head like a mother. But it's important to me, too, that William be in good hands, and not to know grief, as families do when trust fails. And in its place comes meanness and betrayal. Yes, I hear you. You can rest assured of my honesty. I always work, and have always worked with complete dedication. There you go. I haven't even hired her as a waitress at my cafe yet, and I've already humiliated her, and did not even blink an eye, but pretended as if nothing had happened. It is possible that her employees did the same to her, because she did not put them in anything, but decided not to talk about it yet. It was only in a private conversation with Stephen that her son found out, and frankly, he was shocked. True, he did not abandon the case halfway through and brought it to its logical conclusion. In fact, he saved the cafe from closure, and the mother helped to save her reputation. After all, about her could go bad word of mouth, and then the customers would have stopped coming. That seemed to be Camille's greatest fear, not that she had offended her sister-in-law again. It didn't make her feel unbalanced or even compelled to apologize, as she should have done, especially since she knew how the relationship between Lisa and her son had developed. William almost carried his wife in his arms, blew dust from her, and made her happy with his successes at work. Together, they were willing to go to great lengths to achieve their happiness. Let's eat another piece and leave these for William, Camille suggested, looking enigmatically at the cake. I second that, nodded Liza. And while they were enjoying the dessert, William was giving a lecture to the staff, but not threatening them with dismissal, but asking them to get smart. Yeah, you gotta realize you can't relax. You're gonna be looking for a new job later. So we should just put in our applications right now. They all asked him. No, you don't have to do that yet. He shook his head. But if you don't get smart, my mother will throw you out on the street and not care that some people have families and financial problems. We understand, William, and we'll try to live up to that trust. Good. Especially since Stephen is staying with you. Yes, he'll be my assistant, but other than that, he'll have the same responsibilities. And believe me, I'm not going to humiliate any of you. We will resolve all issues through compromise, Stephen added. And no problem will go unaddressed. Yes, that's right. And now we need to close the cafe for preventive maintenance and put it in order. Tomorrow, representatives of the Sanitary and Epidemiological Service will come to inspect the place. We must make sure that they did not find a single comment or violation. We'll do our best. Maybe you can rely on us. Again, the staff replied in unison and began to put things in order. You see. And no one had to be punished. William looked at Stephen and patted him on the shoulder. How will you explain Camille to your mother? I'll say that I solved everything peacefully and without firing anyone. I'm not in favor of radical methods. Although I will not hide that when I was going, I wanted to make a mess. But then I came, assessed the situation, listened, and came to the conclusion that my mother is not a gift either. On the one hand, yes, but Stephen hesitated, trying to find the right words. But she's the owner of the cafe, and that says it all. William interrupted him, and at the same time logically completed the phrase. That's what I meant. And you will be combining, as I understand it. Yes, that's right. And then we'll see. I'm in no hurry. No one's pushing me around at my day job, and the management respects me. So I don't see the point in changing anything yet. Isn't that like the horse in the crosshairs thing? Stephen said and smiled embarrassedly, something like that. Now go command the team and deal with the ventilation today. The repair crew will be here soon. I've already put in a requisition. I'll be expecting them any minute. And don't forget about the alcohol. Don't let that guy touch it again. What if you do? The first time lying down, he won't understand. They'll kick you out. We don't want any trouble. What if he gets drunk in the middle of the day and shows up like that in front of the guests? There will be a scandal, and with a blow to the reputation of the cafe, nodded Stephen, and even a little sweat, imagining such a picture. I'll be sure to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't do anything wrong. That's good. Keep up the good work. I've got to go. Goodbye, William. And thanks for your kindness. Come on, we'll make it up to you. Today I helped you. Tomorrow you'll do me a favor. William was kind to Stephen, and Stephen was pleased. He didn't have to pack up and leave the cafe. In addition, nothing out of the ordinary happened, although the son of the landlady wanted to publicly punish someone. But it didn't happen, because Lisa kept him from taking rash steps. She understood more than anyone else what respect and honesty were. And if she heard negative things about herself, it didn't mean that she had to mirror them. Lisa did not allow herself to use profanity because she considered it a sign of ignorance and tried to keep her emotions in check, even if she wanted to take them out on someone. She would endure the inner pain and simply walk away in silence. William knew this and was careful to say every word. That was the basis of their family relationship. Coming home from the cafe back to his mother's house, he had no idea what she would tell him. Even more surprising was that Lisa had been supportive, even though it had never been idyllic between them before. And with his new worries, it was a serious test for his nervous system. At the same time, he did not risk dissuading his wife from her decision. I'm shocked, to be honest. I didn't expect it, William said, after Lisa announced the offer of a waitressing job. Why not? Better than standing in the market, Camille shrugged. Besides, they pay tips, and not bad ones at that. Sometimes, and not a day's wages exceeds. All right, let them try. If they don't like it, they'll leave. I talked to the team and realized that they cannot work normally. Wow, I thought it was the other way around. No, Mom, it's fine. It's just that they got a little slack and decided to do me a favor and leave me without a cafe. She snidely continued the line for him. No, you're just imagining things. William reassured her. You'll see that after a while everything will change and the cafe will be transformed for the better. Its name will rumble all over the neighborhood and attract crowds of customers. I'd like to believe that, especially since I don't plan to close. I need a new location to keep growing. Yes, William. Lisa nodded. Your mom wants you to take over the cafe in the future and run the new place herself. It's like the plan of the century. I can't add or subtract. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll see what happens. But for the near future, representatives of the SES or any other inspection organizations will definitely not bother your cafe. Consider it already yours. I decided so. Camille moved to him a plate with a piece of cake. A treat. Lisa and I have had enough. And there are sandwiches left if you want some. You can eat at my place. You won't have to cook anything. Thank you. I really did work up an appetite. William enjoyed the cake, but he looked at his wife and mother. Her bad character and the situation didn't add up. It was too sugary. Everything looked as if a thick layer of honey had been smeared on, but there was still tar underneath. And if it was not removed and checked at once, then at the very end one could come across bitterness and humiliation. Thinking about it, William decided not to jump to conclusions. It was one thing for his wife to want to work in the cafe, but it was another thing for her mother to treat her the same way. After all, judging by what he had heard from the staff, he could expect anything from her. And that was worrying, because she hadn't worried about her daughter-in-law's future before. And this is so generous. It's like a free cheese in a mousetrap, but no trap. I had to wonder where the catch was, where to look for it, so as not to be in a stupid position. William didn't know the answers to these questions yet, but he took note of them to keep the situation under control. He didn't want to be left in the lurch and lose his wife. Lisa was an impressionable person, and sometimes she took events to heart. William, of course, tried to explain that it was not necessary to let everything pass through him, but he realized that everyone's state of mind was different, and it was impossible to predict in advance this or that reaction. So it turned out that one hand pushed his wife into the maelstrom, and the other sought to protect her from trouble, and it seemed that there had been no significant shocks lately, except for minor incidents in public places. Lisa, every now and then, got into curious situations. Not that she provoked them on purpose. They just sort of found her. I remember how she once helped an old man and picked up a purse from the floor of the bus, which he dropped. So instead of thanking Lisa, the old man scolded her for embezzling his change, even though the wallet was empty. Only documents were there. It was hard, but the old man was calmed down. Just before he left, he suddenly remembered that he had taken money for exactly 2 trips. At that moment, Lisa almost sobbed, but she pulled herself together in time. And all because the old man apologized. The incident was over, but it still left a residue. Since then, she's been cautious of any good intentions. Surprisingly, she was sympathetic to her mother-in-law's proposal. She didn't analyze and compare facts. In general, she took her word as a native person, despite the fact that she and William had been at odds until recently. On the other hand, she could not hold a grudge for long. She had a tremulous and tender heart, and the residue of any unpleasantness had dissolved. And Lisa was like a dandelion again. Anger and hatred didn't take root in her soul. They a priori did not find a source of realization to strike an unexpected blow. William, having recovered from the cake, ate his sandwiches, and as he drank his tea, his mother suddenly asked him, "Listen, son, why don't you and Lisa move in with me? Interesting movie, but we'd rather stay at home for now." "We'll live," he answered, and inwardly tensed at such a proposal. "Well, look, if you think so, I'd be glad to see you. We need time. Such questions are not solved in a hurry." Lisa supported her husband. "Sooner or later you'll formalize your relationship," Camille continued, "and I'd like to see you two together all the time. That way there will be harmony in the family, and it will be easier to help each other. We'll think about it, especially since we're used to the way of life we have between us," William replied, and thus drew a line under their conversation about a possible move. And I realized I wouldn't insist. Decisions like this take maturity. And as my sister-in-law rightly said, it's best not to get emotional. Yeah. They're not the best counselors in this case. I agree, Lisa nodded. "Well, shall we pack up then? Thank you for your hospitality. Everything was delicious." "Aha, apart from the cake and sandwiches, I didn't offer you anything. The whole day just kind of flew by." "That's okay. We didn't come here to eat. We're here to solve your problems and make a difference." "That's true. But still, I apologize for the meager table," she said guiltily, lowering her head. "I liked it, just like home." Lisa put her arm around her shoulders and at the same second removed her hands. It felt like a hot surface. "Thanks for the compliment. And don't forget what I told you. Anything can happen in life. And this is stability." "All right. Thank you for your wise counsel." William and Lisa left the apartment, and Camille crouched down and cupped her head with her hands. What she was thinking at that moment, one could only guess, but the nervousness around the problems was very alarming, and primarily because they were the main indicators of impending collapse. Camille did not tell her son that the chair was wobbling beneath her, and it was still unknown how her future fate could have turned out. She did not dare to reveal the main cards in the hope that by that time her son would decide everything for her. But he didn't have all the information and power. And in the end, he almost found himself between a hammer and an anvil. And only the wife again found a way out of the situation. Lisa gave the last thing she had to save the family. But by then it was clear William's mother was in grave danger. And ironically, she had created it for herself. Even bravado, trying to minimize the loss. But that didn't help either. And after a while, the shocking truth came to the surface. The only person who had the vaguest inkling of it was Camille's own sister. Miranda watched her business endeavors from the sidelines, but stayed out of the way with unnecessary advice. She had enough of her own worries to take on other problems as well. At the same time, Miranda was genuinely worried about her sister and hoped that she hadn't fallen into a trap. After all, business, in addition to the investment of money and time, could take away the most important life, and such cases happened when businessmen lost. At first, they also started easily and effortlessly, and then everything flew into the abyss, and it was good if they managed to save themselves at the very last moment. Such people were called lucky. But there were also those to whom fate did not smile, and then only a marble or granite slab somewhere at the edge of the road reminded of them. Of course, Camille did not want such a fate for herself, but she could not help but realize what she had gotten herself into. All the more reason to use other people's money for her own well-being, and her sister had warned her about that. When it first started, that's what she used to say. "Look, Camille, it'll all go down the drain. You'll be looking for the fifth corner." "Nothing will happen to me," Camille said. "And I was born under a lucky star. In case of emergency, my son will help me and won't go anywhere. But I don't want to have to do it myself." This conversation took place just as Camille was having her final quarrel with William. He wouldn't take her advice, and he wouldn't leave Lisa. And to keep her out of the way and keep her mind off him, he moved with his wife across town. Camille had not visited them all this time, and they had no desire to ask for a visit. And today's meeting, frankly, had been confusing. William didn't expect his mother to ask for help, but I couldn't say no, because then I'd hate myself. Inside, he still held out hope that his mother would change her attitude toward him and Lisa. But time flew by, and there were no signals from her. In fact, neither of them wanted to make the first step. And in this situation, pride was an obstacle. If one had been offended once, it wasn't certain that it wouldn't happen again. That's what was holding them back. Like a red rag for a bull during a bullfight, and at the same time it was impossible to concentrate on more important details. It was as if they had spoken in an unknown direction. Leaving behind a hazy trail, William tried to put all the puzzles of the Rebuses together, but eventually abandoned the endeavor. He lacked the stamina to find the missing link in the long chain of events. In addition, there was partially no logic with which to explain anything. When they arrived home, William and Lisa breathed a sigh of relief. It felt as if they had been interrogated. They barely got out of there, forgetting everything. They threw off their shoes and sat down on the sofa together and said in one voice, "What a day it's been today." I could hardly refrain from saying it to my mother's face. William shook his head. Lisa's eyebrows furrowed at the cafe. "No, about the natural relationship, I thought it was strange that she would take such a step. She said she'd never turn to us in her life, and she said a lot of other things. But we're not vindictive people, and we found the strength to forgive your mother. She's not a gift, but she's not a stranger to us. I haven't seen her eager to be related to us lately." William's hesitating. If you think that a couple of words spoken on the fly is a sign of kinship, you are mistaken. But what is it really? Did your mom try so hard? Are you looking for a black cat in a dark room again? Yeah, because I don't believe she's sincere. I helped her with her problems at the cafeteria. I'll let her work it out from here. So you didn't do everything angrily? Lisa asked and shook her head. I just started. And if you want to understand, You have to go into it thoroughly, and then everything will fall into place. So what's the matter? Your mother offered you the manager's job. I'll have to think about it. I'm sensing a catch. I just can't figure out what it is. There doesn't seem to be anything to worry about, except for the SES nagging, but I still feel uneasy. I was also kind of wary of her offer to work as a waitress in a cafe. But then I thought and came to the conclusion that if we make a concerted effort, then who knows? Suddenly, the establishment will really be ours to roll up our lips. Mother would never go for that, even though she promised a gold mine. William put her down. I think we should be very careful with her. But you heard her offer to sign the cafe over to you. Lisa stood her ground. That's right. And that's what worries me the most. Why hasn't she had that idea before? You don't think my mother wants to get rid of all her problems in one fell swoop? I don't think so. I mean, aside from those SES complaints you've practically dealt with, there's nothing there. Where would they come from? Besides, she would have told you about them. Yeah, Lisa, we've been living with you for almost a year, and I still haven't realized that my mom knows how to manipulate people. I didn't even realize it. I shrugged. That's what was going on today. And you left? William poked fun at her and accepted a waitressing position. So you didn't refuse to help her either. I told her not to go. What did you say? Yeah, you're right about that. We both let her talk us into it. And the interesting thing is, nobody forced us to go. If you're lucky enough to be born with the gift of persuasion, you use it all your life. Let's give it a shot. You'll combine your day job with running the cafe. I'll start working as a waitress. I can quit the market tomorrow. The owner won't be upset. Maybe she's right, and we're just screwing ourselves. William replied thoughtfully. It's just that, she hasn't contacted us for a long time. And now she's offered us such goodies. And most importantly, she didn't ask for anything in return. It was as if she decided to give up everything. Not to be dramatic, not to inflame the situation. Lisa put her arm around his shoulders and kissed him gently. Time will tell and put everything in its place. And if we are right, it will be a life lesson for us. Yeah, I guess that's what we'll do. Don't go looking for a black cat where there's never been one. We gave ourselves a headache for nothing, and now we don't know how to get rid of it. I've got a good remedy, and you know what I mean. Lisa pulled him into the bedroom, and William's eyes lit up with anticipation of a passionate night. Such a remedy. Not only did the headache go away, but any other soreness stopped reminding of itself. Not only that, there was a burning desire to do good deeds. The body received such a powerful charge of vigor that it was enough for several days. And finally, the state of health improved, and in women also the emotional background. At the same time, the doubts that arose did not just cause them to have a heated discussion. Most likely, intuition worked, and there was dissonance in making further decisions. After all, William's mother once again. After all, William's mother really did not spoil with such gifts. She was only trying to make herself feel good. Naturally, under such circumstances, it is time to think about mercantile interests, and not only to earn trust, but also to benefit in this regard. Camille is quite good at it. At the dawn of creating a business and opening a cafe, she did not think about the difficulties she would have to face, and the first alarm bell in the form of a half-empty hall at rush hour forced her to take extreme measures. She started spending money unnecessarily, and that led to some accounting irregularities. With difficulty, but some things were resolved. But the biggest problem remained, and after a while, it got to her head. Yes, so that I left confused, however, got rid of all their barking, and with tears in my eyes thanked for the rescue. She was literally pulled out of the trap at the last moment. Just a little bit more, and there would have been a new granite slab by the road. And so she got off with a slight scare and finished her business epic. Didn't take what turned out to be a heavy load. It was not for nothing that her sister told her she'd be better off doing something quiet. The next day, William went to his main job, and Lisa called the owner of the trading tent and agreed with him on a 2-week vacation at her own expense. Whatever she said, her intuition told her the right thing to do, so she didn't hurry to quit her job. At the same time, and warned her husband that he did not particularly rush into the documents, did not take responsibility if her mother offered to sign any papers. The premonition of trouble did not leave Lisa until the very last moment, up to the day when the unpleasant event happened, and immediately after it the flywheel of global changes spun, which almost pulled everyone who in one way or another had something to do with the cafe. Having arrived at the new place of work, Lisa first of all assessed the situation and realized that there were enough problems in the year that they had not been here. There had been dramatic changes. Some things had gotten better, others had fallen into disrepair. But the saddest thing was that people were passing by more and more often, not even looking inside, not even with one eye. All said that the mother-in-law lost her way and, without realizing it, pulled the business to the bottom. No wonder she needed her son's help. I didn't feel right wearing that hat. I thought I had the strength to cope with any problems, but it turned out to require courage and fortitude. And so she stalled out. Opening the glass door, Lisa entered the cafe, and when she saw her mother-in-law behind the bar, she said hello loudly. "Good afternoon, Camille." "Hello, sister-in-law. You haven't decided to take me up on my offer." "Yeah. What have I got to lose? It's not my last day. I live in." She shrugged her shoulders and announced the hall with a look. "What about the market? You won't regret it," with a squint. My mother-in-law asked. "No, it's all right. It's not a big loss. Besides, you promised career advancement. And that's the most important thing at my age. I like the way you think. And if you finally decided to work for me, I'd love to introduce you to the team. You have to start somewhere." Lisa nodded and followed her into the kitchen, where her mother-in-law had invited all the employees. Once in the main house of the cafe, as in any other place, she was saddened by the dull interior. Not to say she had the professional skills of a designer, but not gloomy. And even the incongruity at some points was just conspicuous. And that said that the hostess had no taste at all. But at the same time, her home was in perfect order. And in this regard, I wondered if she valued the reputation of the cafe at all. After all, everything starts in the kitchen. But Lisa decided not to say it out loud, so as not to incur the unjustified wrath of her mother-in-law. Today was to be her first day of work, after all. It was not enough for them to quarrel over nothing and then become blood enemies for the rest of their lives. Lisa couldn't afford that. All the more so because she had promised her husband to hold out for at least a week. For some reason, he decided to conduct an experiment and check other versions of the problems. "Well, here are all my subordinates. You will work with them." The mother-in-law pointed to the crowd of young people. "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa. I'm here to apply for a waitress position. If you'd like to join your team, I'd appreciate it. Join us. We'll all make money together," answered one of the girls. "My name is Christina, and I'm also a waitress." "That's great. I already have a date. Will you be interning with her?" Camille said, looking contentedly at Christina. "And make sure the customers are always happy. Otherwise, you will not make money on them, and I on you and double the amount." "That's right, Camille," the subordinate said with glee. "Now get back to your workplace. There's nothing to crowd here." The employees began to come out of the kitchen one by one, extending their hands to Lisa and calling her name. She nodded in response, but she couldn't remember half of them. Christina looked at her with a smile and said cheerfully, "Don't even try. I could tell from your pensive look that you were mumbling their names to yourself. You shouldn't do that at work. You'll know everyone's face before you know it. It's hard at first, but then you'll get the hang of it. Thanks for the encouragement. I hope I learn quickly. I don't want to spend the whole internship on the bench," Lisa joked. And Christina took her humor to heart. "It's not soccer, but you'll have to run too. And most importantly, without letting yourself get hurt. In a way, does anyone fight here?" "No, very rarely. However, there are customers who cling to beautiful waiters. They can pinch the soft spot and pull my arm. With me, such numbers do not pass, and I quickly put in place. And after that, the man comes to his senses for a long time. But this is categorically not to do. Shook her head Christina. We already have 2 girls because of such tricks left without a job. Camille believes that the customer is always right. Well, let her comfort herself. Or does she turn on her heel? I don't want any clients like that. And I'm not gonna let you get your hands dirty. Your business. And I told you, if you want my opinion, you won't last long with that kind of attitude. We'll look proudly in the mirror. Lisa, as they say, the eyes fear the hands. Confidence that she will succeed. Christina surprised me. After all, she came to the conclusion that it would not run away on the first day. But no, it didn't. And Lisa even managed to earn her first tip from a generous client. They, of course, were much less than the rest of the staff, but still pleasantly pleased. It was her first day and a small bonus. Praised her mother-in-law, appearing in the hall just before closing time. If you keep this up, you'll soon be earning more than your husband. Camille almost hesitated at the last word. Apparently, she wanted to say more than my son. But she realized it in time. She looked around and said the best possible thing. Lisa didn't correct her to avoid embarrassment. Otherwise, it would have been a disagreement. Thank you for your kind words, but it's better the other way around. She thanked her mother-in-law and left the cafe. It's up to you. But the career path is still on the table. Do you want a ride, or are you taking public transportation? The bus, Camille, the bus. It's more convenient for me. Okay, well, I'll see you tomorrow. She waved goodbye and added, William, say hi and thank you for your help. I will. After getting into the car, the mother-in-law turned around, put on the gas, and drove towards the center. Lisa waited for her bus at the bus stop and went home too. As soon as she crossed the threshold of the apartment, she was immediately picked up by her beloved husband. And how was your first day on the job? Okay. I'd give it a solid B. Lisa winked at him. Okay. What did you take 1 point off for? Frowned his eyebrows for molesting their customers. 2 of them even tried to touch me. I should have told my mother. She would have sent them away. That's just it. She wouldn't have sent them away. Lisa answered evasively and shook her head. Why not? Because, in her opinion, the customer is always right, no matter what he does. That is, he can appeal to the waitresses. Angry? Asked William. It turns out it is. Especially since they're used to it. Lisa shrugged. It's awful. You shouldn't have gone there in the first place. How's it going with you? Did you find out anything? Not yet. But when I was doing a remote report on my mom's computer, I noticed a folder with a password. It had an interesting name, X-Day. What does it mean? I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it holds something important. Best not to touch it. You'll end up getting blamed for it, she told him. That's what I thought. But you should be careful too. William kissed her on the cheek and took her into the kitchen. It turned out that he had prepared a romantic dinner for them to coincide with her first day at work. Lisa blushed and kissed him heartily on the lips, neck, and chin. In general, everywhere her lips reached. And this was the beginning of a stormy continuation of the emotional outburst. At the same time, ahead of them awaited a series of incredible events, which led to the long-awaited denouement. After all, they so zealously wanted to find out what was hiding in this cafe, and what skeleton was hidden in the closet under a heavy burden. Involuntarily triggered the mechanism of disclosure. The couple were horrified when the harsh truth was revealed. And on the surface surfaced not only personal problems, Camille, but also much more severe consequences. That's where the wave that almost swept them into the abyss came from. And only by a miracle did they manage to save themselves, by taking advantage of an unexpected offer from Lisa. Yes, she was the one who sacrificed part of her past to stop the wave, and she was hailed as a hero for her courageous act. But that X-Day, as William read in the folder, was still 5 whole days away. He continued to help his mother periodically, building up the business and bringing in more clients. Lisa, on the other hand, was gaining experience as a waitress. And I must say that she was even better at serving customers in the cafe than she was at selling things at the market, especially since there she had to sell it profitably to get a percentage from the owner. And here it was enough that she brought the order on time and smiled languidly. Men themselves reached into their wallets to pay a generous tip. Others were not stingy at all and laid out on the table without looking at the denomination of banknotes. It came to the point that they managed to earn a month's salary in one day. But not always, and not everyone was so lucky. Usually in the evening or on weekends, and the waiters took advantage of it. They were carefully prepared to serve their customers to the highest standards. Lisa didn't try to squeeze the last of the money out of a customer. If he tipped, she thanked him profusely. If not, she simply said thank you. Come back anytime. And after a while this information reached her mother-in-law. She didn't think much of it at first. And when such tricks began to happen on a regular basis, she decided to teach her daughter-in-law a lesson. She sent an invitation to the kitchen through Christina. Camille stood outside the door, holding a large stainless pot in her hand. What she was going to do with it remained a mystery for now. But as soon as Lisa entered the kitchen, her mother-in-law abruptly opened the lid and poured over her daughter-in-law's head the leftover food from the table, and then set the pot on the table. She looked at her squeamishly and said these words, "Don't dishonor my graying head." "For what?" Camille, with tears in her eyes, shouted Lisa. At the same time, Christina stood behind her back and smiled evilly. "That's for not wanting to work like everyone else." My mother-in-law smelled of booze. It was a sign that she'd taken a drink before she was tortured. "If it's about the tips, you can collect them yourself. In fact, I don't want to stay here anymore." "Well, that's good. You're free to go. We don't need your services anymore. Is that right?" "Yes, Camille." The staff replied with a chorus of cheers and drooped their heads. They clearly didn't have the courage to tell the landlady the truth to her face. But Lisa didn't expect a gesture of goodwill from them. She looked at the crowd as contemptuously as her mother-in-law and shook her head dejectedly. She simply felt sorry for the young people who had become dependent on an exploitative employer. She could stay and continue to grovel before this homegrown business lady. Lisa said goodbye. "What did you say?" Her mother-in-law furrowed her brow and tried to pounce on her with her fists. "Just try it. You are no longer my head of the housing department. I will put you in your place." "Well, Otter, I shouldn't have gotten involved with you." Slamming the door, the mother-in-law left the kitchen and went to her office. Lisa turned to Christina and said angrily, "And you will regret that he poisoned Camille on me. I know it was you who made her follow me, but you realize she's miffed." "Christina, I don't want to hear anything, and you'd better get out of my sight." The calm and poised Lisa had lost her temper, and that was a sure sign that she was really pissed off. Normally, she'd keep her emotions in check in these situations, but she just couldn't. And better now than never. Sooner or later, she was gonna have to show her character. Except it never got through to the people it was meant for. With their heads down, they left the kitchen, and in the meantime Lisa cleaned herself up. She got rid of the remnants of her meal and rinsed her hair lightly under warm water, then hailed a cab and headed home to inform her husband of his mother's egregious antics. Upon seeing his wife's disheveled hair, William immediately realized there was trouble. "Calm down and tell me in order. What happened?" He put her on the sofa. He brought tea in a glass and made her make 2 goals. Period. It's just unthinkable. "Your mother humiliated me in front of everyone," cried Lisa. "All because of that damn tip. And what did she do? Just don't fall off the couch when you hear this." Lisa told him how she was first called into the kitchen and then had the leftovers poured over her head in front of everyone. And it was his own mother who had done the humiliating act. And she was under the influence of alcohol, and they mocked her squeamishly. The cafe staff stood and watched, unable to say anything to her. Now my mom had completely buried our relationship, and I honestly wanted it back. but I guess I'll just have to let it go. And most importantly, I'm sending her a gift. Make her happy. Maybe one last time before she loses her business. What are you talking about? With concern in your voice, Lisa asked, and even stopped crying. They say that's how the attendance will drop. That's all. William shrugged and winked at her. I see, but she'll have to make her own way. We agreed to help her, and in return we were humiliated again. In fact, William hadn't told his wife about the gift he'd sent her mother. The thing is, he managed to find the password to that encrypted folder and find out all the information it contained. To be honest, he even felt bad about what he read. However, William did not dare to sound the alarm because he realized his mother's cunning plan. She did not just want to register the cafe on him. She needed to get rid of a lot of problems, and first of all, somehow put the creditors on a false trail. She borrowed money from them for the promotion at a high interest rate, and all because the lenders turned out to be gangsters. They laundered money this way. But they did not even think of forgiving debts, regardless of the gender and age of the borrower. They didn't care who they beat the money out of, as long as they got their money back. Camille fell into a trap after William withdrew his support and also removed all his work from his computer. She began to have global problems. There were fewer and fewer visitors day by day. Profits were gradually declining. But X day, on the contrary, was approaching. And the less time there was left, the more anxious she became. Camille was worried sick, and when the bandits called and demanded to return the debt, she panicked and turned to her son again. But William wouldn't hear of it. You're the one who ruined a good cause. We went out of our way to help you, and you took it upon yourself to humiliate my wife. Well, forgive me, you scoundrel. I'm ready to make amends. She wept in fear for her life. Well, first I have to pay off my creditors. I realized you invited us here for a reason. You wanted to hang on to your debts to make our lives easier. I'm ashamed of what I've done, son. And this business, for crying out loud. And that low act in the kitchen. I could go on and on about my mistakes, but it's not gonna make me feel any better. I'm not making any promises. I'll talk to Lisa and call you back. In the meantime, can you sell your car? It's still not enough. But I'll wait, son. If you can think of something, I'll be grateful to you for the rest of my life. William discussed the impending disaster looming over his mother with his wife, and she again agreed to help. Despite both being angry at her mother-in-law for publicly humiliating her, figuring out their options, they had raised a third of the amount needed in a few days. Together with the car, it was exactly half. They had to find the rest of the money for the loan. So Lisa suggested selling Grandma's house. It was her only reminder of her past. But after weighing up the pros and cons, she came to the conclusion that human life was more precious. William, of course, crushed, but also did not sit idly by. He himself approached the creditors and persuaded them to wait another month. In the end, during this time they managed to sell Grandma's house. True, they had to lower the price to get cash at once, but there was nowhere to go. Camille's life was at stake. She caused problems, and they were solved by the whole neighborhood. Naturally, the cafe had to close because the money ran out. But the creditors were paid off and they got rid of her. What she experienced during this time could only be guessed. She didn't leave the house to go to the store and back. She was afraid that the bandits would chase her and send her to the other world. But it did not happen because William agreed with them. He assumed all obligations to repay the loan. His mother thanked them for a long time, especially Lisa for her miraculous rescue, and promised not to get into the business again. Moreover, she insisted that they move to live with her because they had to give all their savings to the creditors. On the other hand, this story became a lesson for them and a hint that one should be able to forgive. It is understandable that it is difficult to forget humiliation and meanness, but no one is immune to it. And when unforeseen circumstances arise, it's no time to be proud. And that's exactly what Lisa and William did. And they didn't regret it. They finally managed to find a common denominator and eliminate all the barriers. They had been in the way for a long time, but everything had its time. The moment of truth came when fate turned to them and helped them to find peace under one roof and in the circle of a large and friendly family.
Subscribe and click the bell.
Benjamin, have we finally waited for our daughter to get married? Lauren was making herself pretty in the mirror. I can't believe it. I want Kayla to be happy at last. Benjamin adjusted his shirt, shook invisible dust from his pants, looked at his watch. Time to go to the guests. Excitement reigned in the bride's room. Kayla stood by the huge mirror and waited impatiently for her to finish lacing her dress, her friends chattering merrily. "Oh, Kayla, what a beautiful bride you are," one of her friends said admiringly. "It suits you so well. Your Matthew will die of happiness when he sees you." "Oh, no. She pretended to be scared. I want to see him alive and well. You and he are perfect for each other. Such a beautiful couple, and your dress is incomparable. If I knew that ready-bought, I would have thought that sewn to order sits on you just like fit." "Oh, we're talking." Nora, the bride's best friend, looked out the window. "And there's the groom." "Kayla, don't go out to him yet." "Why not?" "Do you really believe a stupid omen?" Kayla impatiently looked out from behind her friend's back, trying to see the groom. "Let's not break tradition. We'll go down to the guests, and we'll call you to the registration." The girls went down the stairs decorated with colorful garlands. "And when did they have time to put a balloon arch at the entrance?" asked one of the girls. "Look, in the corners of the living room, bouquets of balloons immediately appeared a sense of festivity." "Yeah, there are little tables set up for guests everywhere. I want champagne." "You what?" Her friends told her off. "It's still early. What will the host say to us if we get drunk before everyone else?" "We're just a little bit." Guiltily replied the girl. "Let's go outside, shall we?" On the lawn in front of the house was a tent in which the employees of the marriage institution. Two women in bright summer dresses, with gorgeous hairstyles on their heads, were talking animatedly while waiting for the newlyweds. The solemnity of the atmosphere was added by intertwined, huge rings on the back wall of the tent. In the shade of fruit trees, there were tables set with appetizers and glasses filled with wine. It really is a marvelous arrangement here. The bride caught up with her friends, and now together with them plunged into the atmosphere of the upcoming party. "Kayla, why did you leave the room?" She was surrounded by her friends. "What if Matthew sees you?" "I can't stay locked up with guests in the house." The girl was shining with happiness. She couldn't wait to share her cheerful mood with everyone. Kayla smiled welcomingly at those invited to the party. "Kayla," a stylish middle-aged woman hugged her. "Congratulations! You and Matthew look just wonderful." The girl accepted congratulations from all sides, bowed in gratitude to the guests, and smiled. "It's indecent to be so openly happy." Nora whispered in her ear, "About half of the women here, you are envious." "What can I do if I'm happy?" The bride was beautiful. Her thick blonde hair was styled with a tiara. Her light makeup made her face more expressive, her blue eyes looking at the world with rapt attention. "Kayla," an acquaintance of her parents approached her. "Congratulations, you look very beautiful today. Where is the groom?" "I don't know." Blushing with pleasure, the girl replied, "I haven't seen him today." "You are just made for each other." The woman squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Kayla." Suddenly she heard the voice of the groom. "I've been looking for you. Come quickly to me. I missed you so much. What are you doing?" The bridesmaid stopped him. "Don't you dare go near her. It's bad luck. Just be patient. The party starts in 15 minutes. But I just wanted to kiss her. Matthew tried unsuccessfully to make out his fiancée in the crowd. You'll get over it. One of the girls told him, you have a long and happy life ahead of you. You'll kiss again. Upset Matthew disappeared into the crowd. Honored guests, parents, bride, and groom. Finally, the toastmaster announced, it was time for the marriage ceremony to begin. The guests, laughing and chatting, reached the tent, where the music was already playing, and the employee of the marriage ceremony, in the microphone, invited everyone to come closer. Kayla, the bridesmaids, took the bride under the arms. Come on, the groom's probably waiting. Yes, come on, the wedding will not wait. Don't worry, said one of the girls, noticing how Kayla's hands were trembling. All is well. The guests are in place. The fun is starting. Where's Matthew? Looking around at those present, the bride asked, where did he disappear to? The guy was offended. Someone answered from the crowd. They chased him away. The guests laughed and began to shout, Matthew, come out. The bride is waiting for you. Don't be afraid. Marriage is not scary at all. It's even pleasant. Or maybe he was afraid of the first wedding night. The men teased the groom. It happens. Matthew, we can stand at the door for support. Dad? Kayla was about to cry. Where's Matthew? Have you seen him? Yeah, he's around here somewhere. He can't have gone far. Don't be nervous. Maybe the man had to go out on his own. Let's wait a minute. Guys, the girl looked back at the groom's buddies. Where's your friend? Yeah, he's around here somewhere. He'll be right with you. He knows it's time to get the party started. Some woman came to talk to him. A relative of yours, I think. Maybe your mom? Said Kevin. They left together and have not yet returned. Kayla always disliked Kevin. She thought he had too much influence over her boyfriend. My mom is next to me. Kayla took her mother's hand. Where's Matthew? Kevin shrugged his shoulders. I have no idea. Let's look for him. He couldn't have really run away, could he? Or maybe you're the one who tried to talk him out of marrying me. Why? The young man stared at her perplexedly. I have no reason to upset your wedding. Kayla, Nora snapped at her. Don't be crazy, your Matthew's coming. What's the guy got to do with it? He always looks at me like he doesn't want me to marry Matthew. Maybe he likes you. The friend tried to lead the distraught bride away from the house. Well, do you want us to go through all the rooms with you? I do. I have to find my fiancé. I hope this isn't some stupid joke to tickle your nerves. Kayla walked up the steps into the house, looking in every room. Nora followed her. Kayla, calm down. Maybe Matthew had a drink and fell asleep, she urged. I think he's outside. He's lying on a bench somewhere in the shade. Yes, and he can't hear the noise of the guests. Kayla was concentrating on opening one door after another, not paying attention to her friend. We've been through almost every room. You can see he's not in the house. Let's go outside. They must have found him by now. Now they can't wait for us. Wait, I haven't checked my parents' bedroom yet. Are you crazy? What would he be doing in their bedroom? He's not an idiot. Come on, don't get yourself worked up. Kayla, not listening to her, had already opened the door. Well, Nora pounced on her when the girl suddenly stopped like a stumbling block. Did you make sure there's no one in there? Let's go to the guests. What are you standing there for? Her friend looked over the bride's shoulder and gave a quiet ouch. Kayla, on her parents' wide bed, the naked bodies of Matthew, Kayla's husband-to-be, and Lara, her aunt, her father's sister, were entwined in a passionate embrace. The lovers were sound asleep. not the least bit afraid of being caught off guard. The girl turned around and silently ran to her room without noticing anything around her. Kayla, Nora could barely keep up with her, frantically thinking of what to do. "Wait, don't be so hot. Stop, please. What are you going to do?" Kayla flew into the room, ripped the tiara out of her hair, threw it on the floor, and then began to remove her dress. The thin fabric immediately ripped. "Kayla, don't do this, please." Her friend rushed to her, wanting to hug her, to comfort her somehow, but Kayla pushed her away. "Help me get it off." Pulling the laces from behind, the bride said, "Otherwise I'll rip it." "Kayla, don't do anything stupid." Nora coaxed her, helping her with the lacing. "Not stopping me." Kayla had already changed into a casual outfit when there was a noise and laughter in the hallway. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Nora asked in desperation, looking at her friend sympathetically. "How can you help me? I want to die." "Kayla, my friend." The girl hugged her. "Is he worth your life? I believe you're in a lot of pain right now, but I know you'll be able to bear it with dignity. Shall we go to the guests? I don't want to see anyone. Help me sneak out of the house, distract them for a minute. But you'll have to explain yourself. You can't just walk away. I'm with you, you'll be fine." Nora released her from the hug, squeezed her hand tightly, as if she wanted to convey her confidence and strength. Kayla looked at her silently and left the room. "Kayla, where are you going to disappear to?" Her father snapped at her. He was in a cheerful mood. "First, Matthew, now you've disappeared. I hope you're not going to sneak away from us and get married in secret somewhere. That would be very romantic, but the guests are waiting. They want to party." The guests, who took part in the search for the groom, laughed and clapped their hands. "My daughter?" her mother asked, noticing that Kayla had changed her clothes. "Where is the wedding dress? Why did you take it off?" The smile slowly fell off her face. By the feverish gleam in Kayla's eyes, the woman realized something was wrong. "There's the groom." The father was relieved to see Matthew in the crowd. "Well, thank God, everyone's here. Where have you been, you wretch? The bride and guests have been looking for you." And he was busy. Kayla shouted sarcastically, looking contemptuously at Matthew. The guests fell silent. What would happen next? "He slept with your sister. In your and Mom's bedroom, by the way." She was choking back tears. The last thing she wanted to do right now was cower in a corner and not see anyone. But she knew she couldn't avoid talking to her parents. "What are you talking about?" Her father looked from his daughter to Matthew and Lara with horror. Kayla was frightening to look at, her face slim, her eyes so sad that Benjamin wanted to grab his daughter to hold her close to protect her from harm. Matthew did not raise his eyes. His face was crimson. Only Lara looked at her brother defiantly. "My God!" The man clutched his head. "Lara, are you crazy? What are you doing?" "I'm sorry." There was not a shadow of remorse in the woman's voice. "I couldn't resist. Matthew is such a sweet boy." She ran her hand over the young man's cheek, and he blushed even more. "So cute and so passionate in bed," she laughed. "Lucky you, niece." Lara looked at the girl mockingly. "Do you realize what you've done?" Benjamin said, looking angrily at his younger sister. "You seduced the husband of my daughter, your niece. How dare you, on their wedding day? He is not my husband," corrected Kayla indifferently. "Fiancé, now ex-fiancé. It doesn't matter. My father dismissed it. You ruined my daughter's happiness. What shame. What are we going to say to the people at the party?" "I want to remind you, little brother," Lara said mockingly, "I paid for this whole party." "What are you worried about, Benjamin? No one was left out of pocket. Now we all calm down, pick up snot, wipe tears, dress up, and as if nothing had happened, go to the guests. They have long been eager to start the holiday. Let's not deprive them of it. Dear guests, she turned to the guests who had gathered in a cluster. Let's go down to the garden, drink, and be merry. Now the hosts will sort out this little misunderstanding, and we will finally begin the ceremony. The guests talked quietly amongst themselves and went down to the garden. Sweet Auntie. Kayla held herself together with all her might. It was so vile on her soul, as if she had been dumped in the mud. Let this feast be yours. I don't even mind if you want to marry Matthew. He's all yours now. Whatever you want to do. He has no obligations to me. I release him from them and won't interfere with your little pranks. Isn't that what you wanted? The woman only snorted contemptuously and followed the guests. Kayla's gaze fell casually on Lara's husband, who couldn't understand what all the fuss was about. There was a mute question in his eyes and anxiety on his face. Uncle Gary? She turned to him. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, and I'm sorry. I can't stay here anymore. I'm stuffy. Kayla headed for the exit of the house. Stop right now. She heard her father's voice. I'm not done. We need to talk. Come back now. I'm sorry, Dad. The girl shrugged. I'm not in the mood to talk right now. I know everything you're going to tell me, so we can safely postpone the heartwarming conversation until tomorrow. Spare me the explanations now. You can't just walk away. Why don't we just calm down and pretend it never happened? You know we owe everything to Lara. Yes, Dad, Kayla said tiredly. I remember that we owe Aunt Lara everything, that we depend on her. Everything we have is hers. You work for her. I hear those words day in and day out, and there's nothing we can do about it. We have to put up with it. But that doesn't mean she has the right to seduce my future husband. We don't know who seduced who. Benjamin tried to stand up for his sister. Dad, don't be a laughingstock. It's obvious who's who. Are you trying to protect her now? I realize we have to do something to keep the guests happy, and you're sorry if the money's wasted. Really, daughter? Benjamin blushed at her words. The guests are in the house. The tables are set. It's awkward. We'll talk about it later, so we're late. Shall we go to the people? We can't really cancel the wedding. There's nothing wrong. Nothing? Your daughter has just been treated like dirt. Don't pretend you don't realize the scandal your sister's gotten us into. Don't exaggerate. Father frowned. Stop your hysterics. There will be a wedding no matter what. No, Dad, the girl said firmly. I'm tired of groveling. There won't be a wedding and there's no need to think of anything. I'm sure you'll find the right words to explain yourself to the guests. Well, what are we going to tell them? At a loss, asked the bewildered father. The mother was crying quietly on the sidelines. If you want, say that I am crazy and I urgently need to be placed in an asylum. I don't care, but rather reveal the truth. Then no one will have any questions. Kayla headed for the exit of the house. No one got in her way. No one tried to stop her. She came upon her aunt, met her eyes for a moment, and walked on. Lara had a haughty smile on her face. That would be something to worry about, little brother. Lara grinned and spoke. She will run and come back. How will she live without money? You'll see she'll be home tonight. Where will she go without you? She's offended, you see. Has she lost it? Don't you realize what you've done? Benjamin attacked her. Why did you do all this? Everything was going so well, you couldn't stand it. I had a little fun. The woman looked at her brother unhappily. I promise, I won't do it again, even if you don't pout at me. I don't understand how it occurred to you to go to bed with that boy and even a few minutes before the wedding, with guests and a husband in the house. Haven't you had enough of mature men? You got into our bed, too. Why? Sporting interest. Lara laughed. What can I do if I like young, handsome men? He was pleased, by the way. Would your daughter be able to give him what I gave him? She's no good in bed. Now he knows how a wife should please her husband, and that's a lesson to her. Don't flick your beak. You have to keep a man in your sights at all times. I'm shocked. If you dare me again. Benjamin's voice is filled with metallic tones. Interfere in my daughter's life? I? What you? What will you do, Benjamin? Lara squinted her eyes. Remind you where you belong. Don't you forget yourself. Don't you ever raise your voice to me. Enough moralizing, it's time to go down to the guests. Think what you're going to say to them if you can't talk sense into your daughter. On the lawn, the guests languished in ignorance. The employees of the marriage institution impatiently looked at the clock. The appearance of the owners of the house was greeted with applause. What happened? It was coming from all directions. It's time to start the party. Our throats are already dry, and we haven't had a poppy in our mouths since morning. Where's the bride? Where's the groom gone again? Why do you always lose them? Dear guests, trembling from the excitement, said Benjamin, I have to inform you that there will be no wedding. What do you mean there won't be a wedding? What's the matter? Is someone dead sick? The crowd erupted again. There have been unforeseen circumstances. Please forgive us for spoiling the holiday. The guests chattered indignantly and slowly began to disperse. And I want to have fun. A cheerful voice suddenly sounded on the lawn. Why are the guests leaving? It has begun. Rolling her eyes to the sky, Lara said, her husband, holding a champagne glass in his hand and not firmly on his feet, blocked the way. Calm your husband down, Benjamin asked. We don't need another scandal. Gary, shall we go home? The woman spoke affectionately, taking her husband under her arm. The party is already over. Darling, the man, swaying with cloudy eyes, stared at his wife. I don't want to go home. I want to have fun. Why is everyone leaving? Stop them. He nimbly grabbed the arm of one of the guests, trying to hold on, but the man pushed him away sharply. Gary lost his balance and fell right onto the appetizer table. There was a pitiful clinking of clinking glasses. Champagne spilled. No drunken man screamed. What's the pity? That's how money goes in the sand. He laughed drunkenly and crawled on his knees, trying to pick up the sandwiches that had fallen into the grass. Hey, waiter, bring the tray. What's the point of wasting it? Enough, Lara said sternly. She took her husband under her arm and tried to get him to his feet. Get up. Damn you, let's go home. When did you get so drunk? Leave me alone. He yanked his arm out. Don't touch me. It's a shame we didn't get to go to the wedding. The day was ruined. Benjamin, Lara threw an angry look at her brother. What are you standing there for? Help me get him in the car. Can't you see he's out of his mind? Drunk Gary was picked up and led to the car. I don't want to leave. He wouldn't go. Benjamin, tell her we haven't had a toast to the young ones yet. Matthew, Kayla, be happy, guys, shouted the man, breaking out of his arms. Love each other. Bitter. Why doesn't anyone yell bitter? Be happy. Tears sprang from his eyes. Lara, he cried, I love you. Let me kiss you. Benjamin, tell her we must celebrate your daughter's wedding. Gary, calm down. Benjamin urged him. We'll drink to the health of the young couple, but now go home. They got him into the car. Lara nodded goodbye to her brother and drove off. Finally, all the guests left. Benjamin sat with his wife in the tent on the lawn and looked sadly at the set tables. He smoked one cigarette after another. Evelyn cried quietly. What a beautiful couple they could have been. I was so happy when Kayla confessed that she had fallen in love with Matthew, literally from the first time she met him. Do you think his daughter will forgive him? Of course she will. She's a sensible girl, Benjamin said thoughtfully, remembering the evenings when the young man first stepped on the threshold of their house. Daughter, Benjamin, rubbing his hands together, entered his daughter's room. I want you to meet a very interesting young man. I hope he will be a good husband for you and a reliable business partner for me. And when I'm old, he'll be the head of the firm. What can I do if God didn't give me and my mother a son? I have to figure out who to leave my inheritance to. Dad, Kayla laughed, looking at her father. Do you seriously think I'm going to marry the man you choose for me? I'd like to believe that your first concern is for your daughter's happiness and then your business partner. Of course I am, silly. Her father kissed her on the cheek. But I don't want some gambler, without a tribe and without a family, to turn your head and take over the management of our firm. Remember history. Rich parents always try to make their daughter happy. Have you forgotten that this is the 21st century? I think I can arrange my own life. I'm sure you'll like Matthew, and you'll thank me later. He's a young, but very smart and promising young man, and he's already running one of the divisions of his father's company. If we merge the business, which I don't doubt at all, we'll be so strong, no competitors will be afraid of us. I hope he's at least handsome. The girl sighed tunefully. Yes, he is. I'm sure you'll like him right away. My mother and I wish you nothing but happiness. Darling, Mother intervened in the conversation. When will your acquaintance come to us? I think in a couple of days. And you, daughter, put on your best dress. Try to impress him. It won't be hard for you. You're a beauty. Kayla, without noticing it, was looking forward to the appearance of the young man in their house. Everything was ready for the meeting. The girl looked furtively at her watch and still shuddered with surprise when the doorbell rang. Matthew? She heard it and felt her heart race. Come in, please. Don't be shy. Make yourself at home. The young man entered the living room after his father. This is my wife, Evelyn, and this is my daughter, Kayla. The new acquaintance gave each of them a bouquet of flowers, handed a bottle of cognac to her father, and kissed first her mother's hand, then Kayla's. Goosebumps ran down the girl's skin. It's very nice to meet you. Matthew looked at the girl with interest. She blushed with pleasure. The young man was really handsome in Holland. The father was not deceived. Kayla thought with a laugh, we should take a closer look at him. Maybe we can really have something. Why are we standing here? Her mother came to her senses. Let's go to the table. Everything's ready. Matthew kept his eyes on Kayla. She was embarrassed under his piercing gaze. There was much talk of business at the table. Benjamin praised Matthew for his entrepreneurial spirit, admired his success. Kayla was mostly silent, listening to her guest's leisurely pace of conversation. You excuse me. Finally, the young man rose from the table. I have to go, unfortunately. Oh, that's too bad. Evelyn was saddened. But you'll come again, won't you? We had such a good time. I will. The guests bowed ceremoniously to their hosts. It was a pleasure to meet you. Kayla, my daughter. Her father addressed her. Show Matthew out. The young people went outside. Kayla, the young man spoke to her. Let's go to the movies, shall we? Do you like movies or do you prefer the theater? I don't know, the girl was confused. We still know each other so little. I think I've known you for a long time. Trying to catch her eye, said Matthew. If someone had told me that Benjamin had such a beautiful daughter, I would have asked to visit. So, shall we go to the movies? Well, okay. The girl answered shyly, unable to resist the charm of her new acquaintance. And what picture will we watch? It doesn't matter, just to spend this evening next to you. He was silent for a moment. And let's put aside the ceremonies and go to you. I agree. Kayla laughed. Give me your phone number. I'll call you and arrange a meeting. They exchanged phone numbers. It was a pleasure to meet you. The young man kissed her cheek. The girl blushed with pleasure. Matthew got into the car, honked his horn, and drove away, and Kayla lost her peace. She immediately started calling her friend Nora. You can't imagine how handsome he is, she said dreamily, and how smart he is. So speaks well. I was listening to him. I'm sure I won't be bored with him. Beauty is not the point. Nora warned her. He doesn't miss a single skirt. Why should you be so happy? You think it's easy to love a man who cheats? It's not a joke. So what? When we get married, he'll be completely different, you'll see. My love will do wonders for him. It's just that he's searching for his ideal. And you've decided that Matthew's ideal is you? I'm sure he is. Kayla said enthusiastically. No man can compare to him. He's every woman's dream. How many men have you seen to compare? Snorted her friend. You've only known him for a little while, and you're ready to jump into marriage. What if it's love at first sight? You're stupid. You will have more than one night to cry into your pillow because of him, knowing that he is somewhere with another spends the evening. Think before you speak, yeah. It's easy to lose your freedom, but you don't want to have to bite the bullet. And I believe he'll be all mine. I can make sure he never looks at another woman again. You don't doubt me, do you? I don't doubt you, but I don't doubt him. The humped man can only be fixed by the grave. Nora said doubtfully, You'll cry with him. The young people began to see each other. Matthew could not see his beloved every day, because the business took too much time, but the meetings were always long-awaited and joyful. Not being able to see each other often, they called each other on the phone every evening. Sometimes they chatted until the wee hours of the morning. Kayla, how would you like to go to a nightclub together? Relax, have some fun. I'm in. The girl said yes. It's been so long since I've been there. Then I'll pick you up tonight? Okay, I'll be waiting. I miss you. I miss you too. See you later. Bye. Kayla lay in bed for a long time, smiling into the darkness of the night, Matthew's voice in her ears. Daughter, why are you glowing like that? Looking suspiciously at her daughter, Evelyn asked in the morning. Mommy. Kayla threw herself on her mother's neck. Matthew invited me to the club. So that's just great. I'm happy for you, dear. Matthew, he's a wonderful boy, so reliable, and I feel so safe when you're with him. That's what a real man should be. The day of waiting for the meeting flew by. Kayla heard the sound of a car and ran outside. Matthew appeared with a huge bouquet of flowers. Hi, these are for you. The young man held out the roses to her. Thank you. The girl buried her nose in the flowers. I'll put them in a vase and we can go. She went back into the house. What a magnificent bouquet! Her mother gasped as she accepted the flowers. Matthew spoils you. Mommy, he's so thoughtful. The girl quickly hugged her mother and ran away. The young people got into the car and went to rest. The club was crowded. It's great here. Kayla, smiling, looked at the young man. When I'm with you. Taking her hand, Matthew spoke. I feel good everywhere. Kayla, I really like you. I've never met anyone like you. You're extraordinary. You can say that too. The girl was embarrassed. I'm ordinary. There are thousands of them. No, you're special. Once again, I thank your father in my mind. I really don't want to part with you. When I don't see you, it seems that all the light fades before my eyes. Kayla listened to his voice and was ready to hug the whole world. I have another free night tomorrow. Matthew said, as they sat at a table drinking a cocktail after dancing. Shall we go to the restaurant? I need to have a serious talk with you. Tell me now, or I'll die of curiosity before tomorrow. No, it's uncomfortable here. I want us to have a festive atmosphere around us. Kayla's heart squeezed with excitement. Will you come? Well, what do you want to talk about? I'm not telling you that yet. I want to surprise you. It'll be a nice surprise. Kayla was so nervous she was almost late for her date. In the restaurant, she was met by the receptionist and, smiling mysteriously, led her to a table hidden from prying eyes by a curtain. The girl's legs were shaking from worry. When the receptionist pulled back the drape, Kayla gasped. In the center of the table, there was a small bouquet of flowers, candles were burning, and the central wall was decorated with flowers made of balloons, ribbons, glowing garlands. I've been waiting for you? Matthew stood up to meet her. I was beginning to think you weren't coming. I'm sorry. The girl said, embarrassed. I was late. I was a little out of time. The young man gave her a hand and helped her sit down at the table. I didn't know there were such nice places in this restaurant. Do you go to the restaurant often? Matthew raised his eyebrows in surprise. No, I don't, Nora protested. But no one I know who frequents the restaurant has ever told me that. Meanwhile, the waiter brought appetizers and poured wine into glasses. Have I told you before that you're very beautiful? Matthew raised his glass. You are a mystery to me, a magic. You've done the unbelievable. I'm not interested in anyone but you. No woman in the world compares to you. You're my cosmos, my unattainable dream. Kayla blushed with pleasure at these words. She was afraid to frighten her guesses, but in her heart, she secretly waited for Matthew to say the long-awaited words. I would like to live with you all my life. The girl's heart was ready to jump out of her chest. I have a surprise for you. At these words, the parterres slid apart and the magician entered. The girl laughed merrily. What a surprise! I've long since come out of childhood. We are all children at heart. Philosophically, Matthew replied, this is only the beginning. The main surprise is ahead. The magician, making some incredible movements with his hands, took out a live rose from the depths of his tailcoat and handed it to Kayla. Then he took her right hand in his palms, mumbled something to himself, and suddenly released her hand. Matthew! Kayla's breath caught, and on her ring finger was a ring of two thin, delicate, intertwined rings of white and yellow gold. On top it was set with 3 small diamonds, which shimmered with sparkles in the glow of candles and garlands. It's just unbelievably beautiful. She looked up at him with eyes full of admiration. But how did the magician slip the ring onto my finger? I felt nothing at all. The man, smiling, bowed in a bow. A sleight of hand and no fraud. He replied, bowed once more, and disappeared behind the parterres as suddenly as he had appeared. My dear, will you marry me? Satisfied with the effect he had produced, Matthew waited for an answer. Yes, of course I will marry you. Tears sprang from Kayla's eyes. Why are you crying? This is so unexpected, so unusual. I'm crying with happiness. I love you. And I love you madly. I think there is no one in the world happier than me. The young man took her hand and kissed it tenderly. I am also happy that such a girl reciprocated me. She looked adoringly at Matthew. Now we have to announce to everyone that we are going to get married. The days until the wedding will drag on for an agonizingly long time, but I'm willing to wait as long as it takes, because the reward is you." They reached toward each other and fell into a long kiss. After dinner at the restaurant, Matthew walked Kayla home. They decided to make the wedding announcement, bringing both families together. Nora? The girl secluded herself in her room and immediately started calling her friend. "Matthew proposed to me. We're getting married. I was afraid he'd never want to commit to me, and then it happened. And you said yes, of course." "Yes," she laughed. "You don't know how happy I am. I didn't expect him to ask me to be his bride so soon, and yet in my heart I waited. He's so sweet. He's mine now, forever, and I'll never give him up. Tell me you're happy for me." "Fool, you're in love." My friend sighed heavily. "You don't see anything. You don't want to listen to anyone. You'll regret not believing me later. You ignored all my warnings. You're wrong about him. He's changed. Why would he go out with other people when he's got me? And once we're married, I'll be surrounded by so much care and attention that he won't even want to look elsewhere." "Knave." Nora sighed again. "You're not thinking straight now, though. Do what you want, but don't come crying to me about your Matthew's cheating." "I won't." Kayla lowered her voice. "But promise me you'll be godmother to our children." Kayla ran outside, and Kevin was standing on the porch. It looked like he was waiting for her. "Shall I take you out of here?" asked the guy. "You waited for me on purpose to enjoy the triumph. Look, rejoice. I don't have a fiancé anymore." Kayla was shaking, eyes glittering with feverish fire. "I want to help you." "Shall we go?" He opened the car door. "Yes." Kayla quickly got into the back seat. "Where are we going?" Kevin asked and started the car. "I don't know." "Muffled?" the girl answered. "The main thing is to get away from here." They drove in silence for a while. Kayla looked out the window. Her mind was empty. "Did you know he was cheating on me with Aunt Lara?" the girl asked. Kevin gripped the steering wheel so hard that his knuckles turned white. "Yeah." "Yes, I knew." Finally, he spoke. "I talked him out of this unholy affair. I told Matthew to stop, to think about the fact that he would soon have a family. I warned him against it, warned him that you'd find out one day anyway, but he wouldn't listen to anything. It was as if she'd bewitched him." "You mean," Kayla said slowly, "that this meeting wasn't a coincidence? That it wasn't the first time they've been together?" "Shit!" Kevin cursed. "I'm sorry. I thought you'd known about their connection for a long time." "No, I didn't know anything," she whispered, tears streaming from her eyes. "Why did he do this to me?" All I could think about was him, believing him, and not seeing the obvious. Nora was right. I really am a naive fool. Kevin felt guilty in front of her. "Damn it, I should have told her," he thought. It was hard for him to look at the crying girl. "Kayla, you try to calm down. I'm sure Matthew is sorry for what happened. He'll definitely come to you, apologize, and you'll make up. Who doesn't? Lara seduced him, and he couldn't resist. She's an experienced woman. You know what?" Wiping her tears, Kayla suddenly said, "Take me to a bar or even a nightclub. I don't want to go home. In fact, I want a drink." Kevin nodded. "Good for you, that's better," he said and drove the car to the nightclub. Kayla entered the room and went straight to the bar. "Is something wrong?" the bartender asked, noticing her mascara running down her cheeks. "Yes," she answered briefly, pulling out a mirror and a paper napkin from her purse. "I want a drink." The girl cleaned herself up and took a few deep breaths, trying to regain her composure. "Kayla, my treat." Kevin lowered himself onto a nearby chair and ordered a cocktail for himself and Kayla. She took the straw out of the glass and drained it. "Are you crazy?" Kevin exclaimed, "Yes, I was crazy when I decided to marry Matthew. Serves me right. Don't bother me. I want to get drunk. Why don't we dance?" The young man suggested, eyeing her warily. "Let's go." Kayla headed for the middle of the hall. "Tell me, please." She was already a little drunk. "How can you consider Matthew your friend? You're nothing like him. How many women did he have before me? How many while he was courting me, do you know?" "I don't know." The girl was moving to the beat of the music, waving her arms. "I just realized today that he wasn't going to stop marrying me. He wasn't going to be faithful to me. And if I hadn't caught them in bed, they probably would have kept seeing each other." She laughed nervously. Kevin was afraid that a little more of this and the girl would become hysterical. Slow music started playing. "Ask me to dance." Suddenly Kayla asked. The young man hugged her. She hung on him helplessly. Why am I so unhappy?" "You will surely find your happiness, Kayla." Gently pressing her against him, Kevin soothed her. "Do you think so?" She looked at him with interest. "Let's drink to love and true friendship." She freed herself from his embrace and headed towards the bar with a firm step. "Young man," with difficulty pronouncing the words, the girl asked, "pour me some more of your magic soothing drink. I'm not so sick at heart anymore." "Yes, thank you. But don't drink it in one gulp." The bartender warned her. "Otherwise you won't taste the cocktail." "That's true." She shook her head. "I don't remember what I drank, but it was good." "Kayla?" Kevin tried to stop her. "Do you need a ride home?" "No way. I want to dance. You don't need to drink anymore. Who are you to tell me what to do? Maybe I'm the one who wants to get drunk tonight. Don't get in my way." "Why aren't you drinking?" "One of us has to stay sober, especially when I'm driving. If you want to go home, I'll stay here. Then I'll ask this nice young man here." She tried to stroke the bartender's cheek. "Call me a cab, won't you, buddy?" "I'm not leaving you. We came together, we'll leave together." Draining her glass, Kayla moved towards the dance floor again. She danced like she was trying to exhaust herself. How fun are the people here tonight? Jumping and waving her arms, she said, "I feel very good. Thank you for bringing me here. You're a good man." Kevin followed her closely, not letting her go a step away from him. When she was tired, she almost fell at the feet of the dancers. The young man picked her up in his arms and carried her to the car. It was dawn when Kevin drove Kayla home. "Oh," the girl moaned as she opened her eyes. "The sun is so bright. What a headache." She wanted to get up, but leaned back against the pillow and closed her eyes, nausea rising in her throat. "Good morning, beautiful." She heard a man's voice above her head. With difficulty she opened her eyes again and squinted at the man. "Oh, God!" She whispered immediately, forgetting her headache, pulling the blanket up higher. "You, me? What are you doing here? Where am I?" "Don't be nervous, please. You're in my house. Why did you bring me here?" Looking at him suspiciously, the girl asked. "You flatly refused to go home, so what was I supposed to do?" "Here, have a drink." He handed her a glass of water and a pill. "It'll make you feel better. I hope you're not going to poison me." She said and took the pill. "I don't remember anything." "No wonder." Kevin laughed. "You drained almost half the bar last night." "No way." Kayla blushed. "Actually, I don't drink. I figured as much." Smiling, he agreed. "God, how embarrassing." The girl covered her face with her hands. "Calm down, please. Nothing terrible happened. Just a little too much with cocktails." "We danced, we talked, and then I realized that I had to get you home before you fell asleep on some sofa." "And we did." Kayla faltered, searching for the right words. Between us? Don't worry about it. Kevin smiled again. Nothing happened between us. Why am I in your bed? Like a true gentleman, I gave you the bed, and I laid down on the couch. So I didn't take advantage of your helplessness. Your honor was safe tonight. You can rest assured. There's something else I forgot to tell you. Oh yes, your cell phone. He took the phone out of the nightstand and handed it to the girl. Sorry, I had to turn it off because it was ringing off the hook. Thank you so much for not abandoning me in my time of need. It's been a pleasure helping you. There's a towel and robe in the bathroom. Then come into the kitchen and I'll make breakfast. He stood for a moment, then walked out of the bedroom, leaving the girl alone. Kayla got out of bed. Her head was still foggy, but the pain was gone. She went to the bathroom, stood under the hot jets of water for a long time, as if trying to wash herself off the remnants of yesterday. Come to the table. Kevin invited the girl when she came out of the bathroom. It's a bachelor's breakfast, don't mind. Thanks. She sat down at the table. They ate in silence. Kayla thought intensely, picking at her plate of scrambled eggs. She ate a bite without tasting it. Her heart felt heavy. Your head is going to explode. Kevin couldn't take it anymore. Say something? I'm sorry. I'm not ready to talk right now. I have to sort out my own thoughts first. What should I do? The girl pondered. My running away is no reason not to talk to my parents. I should call them and let them know I'm okay. They must be freaking out. I'll call, and of course they'll defend Matthew and convince me to go back to him. My dad will say it's no big deal. He doesn't think Lara did anything wrong. I don't see how he can justify her when I caught Matthew in bed with her. This coming from my own father? Kayla? She heard Kevin's voice, and as if waking from a dream, she looked at him in surprise. I've been wondering about something for a long time. Maybe it will seem immature to you, but I'll ask it. I'm trying to understand, did you agree to marry Matthew at the behest of your parents, or did you have feelings for him? You know, she said slowly. Yesterday morning I would have told you yes, I love Matthew, but today I'm ashamed to admit it. Today I'm even relieved that the wedding is off. Kevin kept his eyes on her. Apparently, I only thought I loved him. It took a shock like that to realize what was true and what was false. What are you going to do next? Go back home? Oh no, I can't go home. I'm sure your father and mother will beg you not to call off the wedding. It would mean pretending it never happened. Smile at Aunt Lara like nothing happened and marry Matthew because he's a wealthy man and I don't want to play by their rules anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. All I know is I'm not going home. You know, suddenly Kevin said, come with me. Where? Kayla was surprised. My grandmother gave me a house in the village. It's 300 kilometers from the city. I've already got a job, a good position, a decent salary. We'll put the house in order and live normally. Why, there's fresh air there, the beauty is all around. After all, you can live for a while until everything calms down and then decide what you'll do. But I can't go with you. Where will I live? The house is big enough for 2 people. We can't just live together. It's a village. Who am I going as? You and I are strangers. In the city, it's not wrong for a girl to live with a man and not be married to him, but it's different there. It's a bad idea. It won't work. Yeah, everybody's gonna be pointing fingers at me. If it's important to you, you can say you're my fiancé. We're saving up for the wedding. We can live in peace for a while, at least 6 months. And then what? What happens in 6 months? Then you and I will be married. Kevin smiled. I should have confessed a long time ago, because I love you. But it's impossible. The girl said, confused. Why not? I'll have 6 months to win you over. What if? No ifs. You will love me for sure. I will do everything so that one morning you wake up and realize that you can't live without me. Kayla looked at the young man with a long look. Good, she answered decisively. I'll go. Good, Kevin was happy. Then let's get ready, get some groceries, and go to the village, away from the problems of the city. What are we going to do there when we get there? First, we need to assess the situation, see what condition the house is in. It might need some repairs. Kayla, the young man said hesitantly, of course it's none of my business, but don't you want to talk to your parents? Not right now. Kayla frowned. A little later. Until I'm ready to talk to them, I need to calm down. I feel like I've shattered into many pieces. I need to try to regain at least some semblance of composure. Okay, Kevin agreed. You know the best thing to do, don't you? They went to the store and had a long discussion about what to buy. What if there is no light where we will cook? Kayla hesitated as Kevin put a bag of potatoes in the cart. Wouldn't it be better to get something that didn't need cooking? Can we make do with sandwiches? Even if there's no light, the young man reassured her. We have an oven. We can cook everything on it. An oven? The girl was amazed. Do you know how to light it? Of course, he assured her. It's no big deal. When the cart was filled with the goods Kevin thought they needed, they quickly paid at the cash register, loaded everything into the car, and set off. Are you sure you know where we're going? Kayla asked as they turned onto the dirt road, not sad anymore, but rather happy with the anticipation of something new in life. Yeah, we'll take a shortcut. Don't worry, I know the area pretty well. When was the last time you visited your grandmother? About 10 years ago. Don't you think the terrain might have changed, and no one's been on this road for a long time? Watch out! Suddenly the girl shouted, Hare! You almost ran him over. The car swerved sideways. Kevin tried to straighten it out, stepped on the gas, the engine roared and stalled. That's it. Congratulations. The young man looked out of the window and said sadly, We're stuck. Stuck how? We had to choose between saving the hare or going straight ahead. As soon as I turned sideways, I got stuck. Forest roads are unpredictable. The back tire's in a hole. He got out of the car and sat down beside it, looking behind the mud splashes. Can't we get out ourselves? I can push. The girl also got out. It's no use. We're sitting tight. We can wait. Kayla said cheerfully, for someone to come through and help us. We could stand here till the third coming. I was a fool to take a shortcut. If we were on asphalt now, we'd be here long ago. Quiet. Kayla suddenly cheered him up and grabbed his arm. Do you hear that car? At this time on the road really showed a car. The driver stopped a few meters from the travelers. What, guys? He asked cheerfully, leaning out of the window. Stuck? Yes, we hit a pothole. Can you help us? Kevin thanked God for sending them this man. Where are you guys going? Asked the stranger when Kevin's car was already standing on a dry road. We're going to my grandmother's village. Why didn't you recognize the turnoff to the village? It's the other way. What other way? Kevin shouted. You have to get on the main highway and drive back about 10 kilometers, and there you'll see a signpost. He walked around the car, assessing the situation. Then he hooked up a rope, started his car, and dragged them to the road. That was it. He looked at the work of his hands with satisfaction. Don't get stuck again. The man said a warm goodbye to Kevin and Kayla and drove off. Let's get out of here. The young man was frustrated because time had been wasted. After about half an hour, they finally reached the village and found the house. Yes. Kayla looked around the rooms. We're going to have to do a lot of cleaning around here. That's all right. The boy answered her cheerfully. We have plenty of time to clean up before dark. This place is going to need some repairs. Kayla noted, and not a small one. Yes, Kevin agreed. Almost all the furniture is in disrepair. The floors. Stomping his feet, he said. They need replacing too. The walls and roofs are still strong. I agree it's a lot of work, but I think we can manage. What do you think? Kayla happily poured herself into the work in silence. I'll go and talk to the men, the young man said. Maybe someone will help us out. All right, I'll take a look around. Kevin left. The girl was left alone. She looked around the rooms with interest, looking at the pictures on the walls. The owners. Suddenly she heard, "Hello, hello." Kayla stepped out onto the porch and saw a woman smiling good-naturedly. Are you the ones who are going to live here now? We are. Kayla watched her with interest. It's good to be young. My name is Clara. Kayla, nice to meet you. We have nature here. The air is clean. Just live and enjoy. You should renovate. The deceased hasn't done it in 5 years. That's why we came here, to fix the house. Why are you going to do it alone? It's not that kind of work. I'll talk to my friends. We'll get you all the wallpaper in the house in no time. Don't worry, we'll clean it up. Oh, thank you so much. Kayla was at a loss. That would be great. It's too early to say thank you. When are you going to tile it? This weekend. Oh, that's great. We'll come over and help decorate all the rooms. Don't look at me like I'm old. I can still do a lot of things, and my friends are just as perky as me. You look around. Clara told me to take care of business. I'll go get help. By evening, the house was cleaned. You guys must be hungry. Clara realized. I'm an old geezer. I'm out of my mind. Come to my place. I'll feed you. Thank you. Kayla tried to refuse. We have everything. No excuses are acceptable. The old woman waved at her. It's completely different here. Kayla said thoughtfully as they drove back to town, late at night, tired. Strangers offer their help, and it's easier, isn't it? Anyway, I like it. I'm glad you liked it. Kevin smiled. We'll finish the repairs, and then we can move in. The week went by quickly. On Saturday, Kevin and Kayla bought all the furniture. It was to be delivered to the village on Sunday. I was afraid we wouldn't make it. The young man confessed when the young people had dinner at their house in the evening. There was so much to do. I didn't expect such helpful people here either. Can you imagine? The neighbors have already offered their help in assembling the furniture, so you won't have to do it all alone. And Clara promised to clean the whole house after the renovation. Sounds like she's enjoying it. I'm glad we have such a friendly neighbor. Sunday all day, I didn't even have time to sit down to rest. Guys, Clara stopped by when the furniture was already assembled. All that was left was to set it up and mop the floors. Finish up here and come and have a bath. It's the nicest thing to do before the work week, to wash off all the dirt. Oh, right. Kevin caught on. I have my first day of work tomorrow. Tired, Kevin and Kayla fell asleep. Kevin had to go to work today. The first thing that came to her mind when she woke up was looking in the new refrigerator and pulling out a plate of eggs. Yawning and pulling himself up, the young man peered into the skillet. How delicious it smells! Where did the eggs come from? Clara obliged. Kayla smiled. Why are you up so early? I could have made eggs myself. Sit down. The girl put the contents of the frying pan on plates. I want to go to the city. Why? Kevin looked at her questioningly. I've decided to stop hiding. I need to talk to my parents. Maybe now they'll hear me. I'm under no illusions, though. Dad's probably still mad. You're right. We'll have to talk sooner or later. He took the car keys out of his jacket. Here, it'll be quicker. Oh, and one more thing. He took out some money and put it on the table. Take it. It'll come in handy. Kevin, the girl looked at him gratefully. Thank you so much for your support. I will definitely come back. Kayla saw the doubt in Kevin's eyes, all the way she thought about what she would tell her parents, but the conversation didn't go the way she imagined. Kayla, her father shouted when she appeared on the doorstep. Where have you been all this time? No call, no message. My mother and I almost went crazy. My daughter, her mother wailed, hugging her. At least Nora called and said you were all right. We didn't know what to think. I needed to be alone. Too much had happened lately. The girl went to her room and started packing. Where are you going? Dad was surprised. I'm going to move out of your house. I am an adult. It's time to start living on my own. And where are you going to live? Dad grinned. Most importantly, on what? Don't worry, Dad. I'll work. I'm going to the country. I don't want to stay here anymore. I didn't know Matthew had decided to trade city life for country life. What's Matthew got to do with it? Kayla asked, still packing. It's over with him. I'm going with Kevin. He's got a house in the village, and we've been renovating it this week. Kevin's already got a job, and I'll find something to do. We'll be all right. Kayla, Mother cried out in horror. Listen to yourself. How can you seriously say such a thing? Are you going to live in the country, in this stable, surrounded by marginalized people? And this Kevin, how could he let you do repairs? Yes, he's a real exploiter. You're crazy. Who did you trade Matthew for? With him, you could have had a home, you wouldn't have had to work, and in a year you'd be giving us grandchildren. And now what? What are you going to become in a year in the country? My God, this is my daughter talking. Mom, I can do my own thing in the country, believe me. How can you think of self-development there? Do you think you'll be happier with Kevin? With that bastard? He's no match for Matthew. Matthew is such a subtle, intelligent boy. Father, why don't you say something? Evelyn turned to her husband in despair. Oh yes, Kayla nodded. Matthew may be smart, but it's hard to argue with that. I just don't want to have to guess every time he walks out the door. Did he go to work or did he go to bed with another rich, great-aged lady like my Aunt Lara? You're wrong, daughter. Benjamin interjected. Matthew loves you. Yeah, he made a mistake, but that's okay. You don't know how much he regrets it. We all make mistakes sometimes. Don't be so hot. Learn to forgive. Come on, stop fooling around. We've played enough. You've shown your independence. We realize the little girl has grown up, but you have to stop. Come home. That's enough. You've had enough. The father tried to take the suitcases from his daughter, but she gently pulled him away. You still don't get it. I'm not joking or playing around. I'm serious about starting a new life. I'm tired of fitting in, of playing the good girl. Well, think about it. Why do you want to do all this? You have a home here. We're close by. The girl saw her father struggling to stay calm. What awaits you in the village? Kevin? Who the hell is he and where did he come from? You know him not well enough. Leave him alone. In a week he won't even remember you. And Matthew? You know each other perfectly well. You're hurt now, we understand, but it'll pass. You just give Matthew a chance to make it right. Do you hear me? Why don't you say anything? Dad, I can hear you perfectly well, and I know what you're going to say next. You think you're scaring me with the difficulties? What makes you think Kevin is exploiting me? Why on earth would you advise me to leave him? Because you think he's bad. Oh, right, because you have Matthew. He's an example of a fine family man who can provide a woman with anything her heart desires. I even know what's in store for me. I'll live at home, surrounded by beautiful furniture, all my wishes fulfilled at the click of a button. I'll give you grandchildren, a beautiful future. Only me and my children need Matthew no more than expensive furnishings. We'll give a certain status to a young, successful businessman. He will come when he wants, leave when he wants, and in between work and home, seek comfort in the arms of other women. What's next? Is this the life you parents have in store for your daughter? Kayla, the mother cried, we only care about you. Matthew is already like a son to us. We love him. And you're used to luxury and comfort. How can you live long in the country? Don't you think I know what you're worried about? Kayla shifted her gaze tiredly from her father to her mother. You hope to keep your business intact. You don't care how Matthew and I get along. You think you have the right to tell me who to live with, how to live my life, because you're going to provide us with money. And you remember to remind me of that every day, but I don't need it. Why? What do you need? What is there in this stinking hole but not in our house? What else do you need? My father didn't hold back anymore. I already have everything I need, a house, girlfriends I can just have tea with and have a heart-to-heart talk with. They don't care about my status or the thickness of my parents' wallet. Most importantly, I have a man I love who cares, who listens to me, not swatting me away like an annoying fly, and he loves me simply because I am me, not because my parents have money. Kayla, my mother splashed her hands. Are you crazy? That Kevin was bewitching you. Wait till you remember what I said when he forbids you to talk to your parents. Leave him, for God's sake. Listen to us. We've seen a lot of things in life, and you're inexperienced. You're easily fooled. Mom, do you realize that I'm really happy now? Daughter, father coughed. Because of you, our whole business is falling apart. Think of your mother and me. We've done so much for you. We can't lose everything because of your resentment. You have to go back to Matthew, or Lara will pull the money from the firm, and we'll deal with it. I was counting on your husband's father for support. I feel sorry for you, honestly. The girl looked sadly at her parents. I don't know when you became like this. Dad, you loved Mom, didn't you? You didn't even want to work with Aunt Lara before. And now what? Why is working with her and your own comfort more important to you than my happiness? She was quiet for a moment. I don't want to fight with you, but I'm not leaving Kevin. Let's end our useless argument here. I guess we're not speaking the same language yet. She was determined to leave. Kayla, don't go. Please stay. Her mother begged her. Okay, you'll go back to Kevin, but later. Stay at home. We'll think it over, talk it over, take our time. Don't do anything stupid. Please, sweetheart. Mom. Kayla stopped, hugged her. I love you, but I'm not staying. I hope someday you will understand me and forgive me. The girl got into the car, waved goodbye to her mother, glanced at the house. Her father's figure loomed in the window. Is she gone? Benjamin asked. Gone, hard, sighed Evelyn. What are we going to do now? The man went into his office, sat down at his desk, propped his head up with his hand, and said gloomily into space, Why did I get involved with Lara? I wouldn't owe anyone anything now. A heavy memory was weighing on him. Benjamin had berated himself more than once for agreeing to do business with his sister. At the time, it seemed to him he had made the only right decision. Slowly we're building up sales. Benjamin paced the office. Funds are tight. You could take out a loan. The wife stammered. I'm all over these loans. The man sat down abruptly in his chair. Profit is only enough to cover debt obligations, and there is not enough left for development. But others also take loans for development, and the bank refused us this time because we already have a lot of loans. We need an investor. Then we could not only quickly close all the loans, but also increase turnover. The niche is profitable. Household appliances will always be in demand, so none of your fellow entrepreneurs will give you money. Maybe they would, but they would have to share the company's shares, and I wouldn't like that very much. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to mess with strangers. While Benjamin and Evelyn were discussing the problems of the family business, the doorbell rang. I'll get it. A woman came up. Lara? Benjamin heard his wife's surprised voice. What a surprise! What brings you here? And why alone? Where's your husband? Hello, brother. The young woman threw herself at the man's neck. Am I glad to see you? There you go, sister. He hugged her. Tell me how you are. I came to visit you. Husband? He's dead. I'm free again. Dead how? Evelyn gasped. Why? Why didn't you call? We would have come to support you. I beg you. The guest wrinkled her nose. Died of old age. It's already clear. Don't pretend you didn't know who I married. We were surprised at your choice, of course. He was a good husband to you and seemed to love you sincerely. And you must have loved him too. Otherwise, why did you marry him? What kind of love are you talking about, Evelyn? My husband was twice my age. His only virtue was that he was rich. And yet I shouldn't have told you. The lady of the house lamented. We are not strangers to him. We'd like to see him off to his final resting place too. There was someone to see him off without you. Lara waved her hand carelessly. So don't worry. The main thing is that I'm fabulously rich now. All movable and immovable property has gone to me. Lately, as I felt, I began to take interest in the affairs of the company, the owner of which was my husband. So I can handle it. I have reliable people. You must be tired from the road. Evelyn caught on. Come on, I'll show you to your room. We'll meet in the kitchen in half an hour. The woman quickly assembled a festive table for her sister's arrival. Benjamin opened a bottle of wine. So, tell me, brother, how are you doing? How's business? Sitting down at the table and eating, Lara asked. Not bad, but I wish it were better. Benjamin frowned. What's holding you back? Lack of money. The bank refused to give me a loan, and I wanted to buy more goods to cover my debts. Trade is going well, but there's very little money left for development. So they're just stagnating. Listen, brother. Lara clapped him on the shoulder. I'm ready to invest in your firm. You? Benjamin was surprised. Why, I have the money, so what will they be idle? We'll make a family business out of it, you know. What do you say, brother? I gotta think about it. Think. I'm in no hurry. But I won't wait long. The money has to work. Benjamin thought all night and called his sister in the morning. Lara, I agree. Good. She was happy. I'll tell my lawyers to take care of the contract, and we'll meet to discuss the terms. A week later, Benjamin sat in the negotiating room and scrutinized the contract. Lara, I don't get it, do I? The man reread the terms of the deal over and over again. Now you own the majority of the firm? Why are you scared? The woman laughed. We are our own people. The fact that I have the majority of the business in my hands is logical. I have invested my money. I've paid off all your loans, and then, it's only on paper, I have a higher percentage, but you are still in charge here. I'm not even gonna get involved in running the firm. It's yours. You should have known, Benjamin thought, that I was getting into bondage, but I gave in to persuasion and promises, and now I'm paying for my cowardice, and what could I do? At the time, working with Lara was too tempting to calculate the risks, and I didn't want to think that the whole thing would backfire on me. I still had the business, I had plenty of work, and I had a family to feed. I was waiting for my daughter to grow up to strengthen my position. And this is how it turned out. Benjamin stood up, went to the bar, poured cognac into a glass and drank it. What to do? How to bring back the rebellious daughter? Meanwhile, Kayla bought groceries, dishes, and all the little things she lacked in the household and got into the car. Suddenly, the phone rang. Kayla, hello. She heard the cheerful voice of her friend. How are you? You're not in touch at all. You're in your village, and you don't show your face. Nora, it's so good to hear from you. I'm just in town, but I'm on my way back to the village. Where are you? I want to see you. Is there a coffee shop nearby? Why don't we sit and talk for a while? Okay, I'll wait for you. Half an hour later, the friends were already sitting in the nearest cafe. I can't get used to Kevin, Kayla admitted. He's nothing like Matthew. What do you mean different? Nora wondered. He does all the housework with ease. I'm used to having helpers around the house, and Kevin can do everything himself. You know, he can even cook better than me. He can't be bothered to clear the table, do the dishes. So it's good that you don't like it. I don't get it. Is he a homebody who doesn't socialize? On the contrary, he's new at his job and his coworkers already like him. Does he offend you? No way. Kayla made big eyes. He is ready to carry me in his arms, fulfills all my wishes. Friend, you are the happiest woman. Nora exclaimed, I envy you. Thank God you got rid of that pompous, self-righteous peacock, your Matthew. What a life you'd have had with him. Nothing but tears. I suppose you're right. She glanced furtively at her watch. Can't wait to get back to Kevin. She asked with a smile, I'll admit it, honestly. Yeah. Kayla blushed. Go. I'm happy for you. Say hi to Kevin. I'll be sure to come visit. The friends hugged each other warmly, said goodbye, and Kayla left. The days flew by. Kayla, one night after dinner, Kevin suggested, why don't we go for a walk by the river? I'd love to. The girl loved their evening walks. How nice is it here? She said dreamily, looking at the thick fog that was rising from the river. Kevin put his arm around Kayla and smiled. Maybe your parents had gotten better since last time, he asked hopefully. I wouldn't count on it. Kayla answered, besides, the situation with Matthew hasn't changed. My aunt isn't interested in him anymore, but she is interested in working with his father, and his father will only agree to work with her if Matthew and I get married or if he gets 15% of the company. There's no way his father's gonna go for that. It's a vicious circle. My parents are still mad at me. Kayla, I know we're not at a fancy restaurant or even a restaurant. Anyway, whatever. But I wanted to ask you something. About what? She smiled. Will you marry me? He asked, holding out a ring box to the girl. Kevin. The girl looked at him with tear-stained eyes. Of course, I would love to be your wife. Even without your parents' consent? Even without my parents' consent. I love you very much. I love you too. Kevin put his arms around her and kissed her hard. One day Kayla saw a strange car in the window that stopped in front of their house. Who was it? The girl wondered. The car is unfamiliar. Kevin did not warn her that we would have guests. To her horror, Matthew got out of the car. He looked around the house condescendingly and headed for the gate. Why did you come here? Kayla stepped out onto the porch and folded her arms across her chest, signaling that this guest was not welcome. How'd you find us? Jesus, Kayla! What's with the manners? You've only lived here for a short time, and you've forgotten how to behave? Guests should be made welcome. As far as I know, that's how it's done in the village. Give me a hug. At least pretend you're happy to see me. You're not welcome, and it's better if you leave now. I beg you, don't pretend that you're not glad to see me. Let me come into the house. We're not going to talk in the street. I don't want the neighbors to witness our conversation. I don't have time to receive uninvited guests. Tell me what you want here and leave. Don't give yourself any illusions. No one was expecting you here. I don't recognize my fiancé. I'm not your fiancé. Fie, Kayla. Country life is not good for you. Quite the opposite. I've learned to see through liars and traitors, and this is one of them, and I've lost the rose-colored glasses you can't put back on my eyes. Oh, come on, swaggered the young man, easily pushing her aside and walking into the house. Stop resenting. What was, what is past. We are not strangers. Parents are friends. We are almost relatives. We have a lot in common, and if it were not for an unfortunate oversight, long ago would have become husband and wife, and all would be happy. And you have nothing here. He looked around. It's cozy. I didn't expect it. Although the house is a bit small, of course. Do you really want to live like this? Have you satisfied your curiosity? Now get out. You've become so rude, and I came for you. Honestly, I thought you'd come running to me first. I was wrong. I didn't realize that my gentle, calm, modest bride has a temper. Did you show it? I understood and realized everything and even came to apologize. Tell me you forgive me. Well, come to me. I missed you. He tried to hug her and kissed her. Kayla pushed him away. I see you still don't get it. Kayla looked contemptuously at her ex-fiancé. Did you really drive all the way out here and expect me to turn to you for a hug? How presumptuous are you, you scoundrel? I have too much self-respect to forgive treason. I really loved you. How blind was I? I believed that Dad would do the right thing, but no one even mentioned love. Don't you have any dignity at all if you agreed to marry a girl you don't love? Don't you care who you marry? Why do you let your father decide who you marry? Who am I talking to? She grinned sadly. All you care about is profit. If necessary, you'll marry a bald devil to please your father for fear of losing money. Honey, you're out of your mind. Matthew tried to change her mind. Of course I love you now. Otherwise, I would never have agreed to this marriage. You're wrong. Don't accuse me of all the deadly sins. You make me sound like a monster. Yes, I have faults. I'm ready to admit it. But I will improve. Just come with me. Believe me, I really loved you. Remember how good we were together? Loved you and cheated on your wedding day. What kind of love is that? You're wasting your time trying to convince me to come back. At least have some dignity. Honey, we've played enough games. Yes, I was wrong, but you've already punished me, gotten back at me with Kevin. He smirked. I'm not gonna make a jealous scene. Stop pouting. You get ugly when you're angry. I love you. He tried to kiss her again. Kayla pushed Matthew away and slapped him hard. At that moment, the door opened and Kevin walked in. What's going on in here? I see we have company. Kevin furrowed his eyebrows, eyeing his buddy warily. You're just in time. The girl was pleased. I've been telling Matthew that you proposed to me, and we're getting married in a couple of days, and we don't have time for guests. What wedding? What about us? Stunned Matthew. There is no we. Get out. Kayla cut him off. How many times do I have to tell you? I want to forget everything. You have no idea how hard it was for me to erase the image of you and Lara in my parents' bedroom. But I did it. You can't just send me away like that. It's our wedding. No one's canceling anything. You have to come home. Your parents are waiting for you. It's not my problem. Kayla said firmly, my home is here. I'm not marrying you anyway, and I don't care about your business. You can tell everyone concerned. I will not allow myself to be made a pawn so that you betting on me can win a lucrative game and my parents will someday realize that love is more precious than anything else in the world. You've ruined everything, yelled Matthew in despair. Running around with your love, who needs it? Do you really like living here? Slaving from dawn to dusk and from paycheck to paycheck. What can it get you, Kevin? I can give you everything. What does he have that I don't? He knows how to be faithful. Kayla answered calmly, I'm not coming back to you. You're going to wish you'd come with me. Matthew looked angrily first at Kayla, then at Kevin. A year from now, you'll be sick of this life, and you'll want to come back, but it'll be too late, and then I'll watch you beg and plead to be taken back. I'm sorry for you, Matthew, the girl said sympathetically. The young man turned around, kicked his foot in the door, went outside, got into his car, and a minute later, only the dust from the wheels of the car reminded him of the unpleasant meeting. I'm sorry you had to listen to the nonsense Matthew was talking. Kayla walked over and gave Kevin a hug. I have a proposition. What is it? Kevin hesitated and said, let's get ready for the wedding. Kayla laughed merrily, clung to him even tighter. I'm the luckiest woman in the world. Kevin leaned down to place a long, loving kiss on her lips.